All right, we should be live for the New York City mayoral election. Yes, we are. All right. Yep, okay. I just I needed to make sure the audio was working. A little bit of a delay there. As I'm setting everything up, we're going to play this video.
Welcome to a special election day special of Meet the Press Now. Voters nationwide are casting their ballots. It's the first major election day since President Trump's return to the White House, with the government shutdown about to become the longest in American history. So the big question, with the first polls closing in just a few hours, what message are voters about to send, and what will it mean heading into next year's midterms? In New York City, we are going to get results tonight in a mayor's race that has already echoed through the American political system thanks to the rise of 34-year-old Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani. In New Jersey, Democrat Mikey Sherrill seeking to head off a fierce challenge from Republican Jack Ciattarelli in a major test of whether Republicans can solidify President Trump's gains from last November in a typically blue state. In Virginia, Democrat Abigail Spanberger is looking to flip Virginia's governor's mansion, facing off against Republican Winsome Earl Sears. The candidates making their closing arguments in the closing hours of the campaign.
Time now for a new day in our politics, and it is an honor and a privilege to be a part of a movement that has fought every single day to bring that day forward.
I'm feeling very good.
What's up, Spider-Man? How's it going? This is gonna be a wild one. We have a long night ahead of us.
I feel the momentum is on our side. If you watch the polls, they've all been moving to us. I've been on the street. I feel it from people.
We're out fundraising my opponent. We're out energizing my opponent. And today I picked up the 15th endorsement from another prominent Democrat. And when Democrats are endorsing the Republican nominee, it tells you how badly people want change all across this state.
I've told people in my state, look, if it's keeping you up at night as your governor, it's going to keep me up at night.
Congresswoman, you have to make a prediction. How's it going to turn out?
I think I'm going to do quite well today.
President Trump, meanwhile, ramping up his involvement in these races, holding tele-rallies late yesterday for Republicans in Virginia and urging New Jersey voters to cast their ballots for Ciattarelli.
Ciattarelli is a businessman and a public servant who has devoted his life to the people of New Jersey. He really has, too. He loves the state.
Holy crap, hold on, guys.
These updates will be very fluid.
Whoa.
First, the goal right now is,
looks
not
like
to
we
update,
have a major plane crash in Louisville. I went to this live stream because they were showing the New York election results, the polls and everything.
all of us right now, but very tragic scenes for you up in here. Reporter Chad Program.
I'm going back to see what happened.
This is a moment, Chad, where it seems like maybe finally there is some movement, but it has taken now 35 days to get to this point. And
Today, not necessarily perhaps the half Jordan.
Okay, I think I went too far back and it's not loading
really
now.
rise up
Here
here
we go.
in the sky. And of course, we have been no doubt been bringing you countless updates throughout the country when it comes to these rolling issues that have been going on with not only closures at some times.
What's
but,
up? What's up? How's it going? Well, as I was just saying, go do stuff, we were tuning into this channel because it had the New York City election on it. But there is a massive plane crash in Louisville.
On the ground, but also official sources as well. And you can still see just on the ground there, we're seeing those flashes as well of flames continuing to happen here. And again, We are awaiting more key details. And just want to show you, again, this plane crash being reported right now, and we are awaiting more updates as they continue to roll in. We will be bringing that to you on Live Now from Fox as it does happen. Playing out right now. So what happens usually then in the very immediate moments of when a plane crash has happened in the United States? NTSB gets word of it. They launch their GO team to descend in Louisville. A lot of them, of those GO team members coming from D.C., but they could come really from all parts of the country. All right, now we are getting an update from Fox News' Chad Program. We were just speaking to him moments ago. He is getting an update from the FAA. We can now confirm to you that this has been a UPS flight 2976, crashed around 5:15 local time after departing from Louisville International Airport in Kentucky. The McDonnell Douglas MD-11 was headed to it was headed to Hawaii. The FAA and NTSB will investigate. The NTSB will lead the investigation and will provide all updates. So that was big updates coming from Fox News' Chad Program, where we now are getting the details that this was a UPS flight that crashed around 5:15 local time. It was just leaving the airport. So it crashed within moments of taking off. It was heading to Hawaii, but instead, of course, we are now seeing these images happening right now. Breaking news of this massive plane crash right now in Louisville that, again...
All right, while that's going on, there is some big news in the Canadian politics world. Literally, as soon as I ended the stream, more or less, Chris d'Entremont, I probably butchered that name, but Chris d'Entremont has been fired by Pierre Poilievre. A conservative MP has been given the boot. I guess I'll just use that one. This is Politico. It's on CBC. And is considering crossing the aisle, or I guess now joining the Liberal government, as he is no longer a part of the Conservative caucus. This is big news. It could potentially bring the Liberal government closer to a majority. And with this insane budget of, my God, it was like hundreds of billions of dollars. They claimed that they were going to have $1 trillion worth of investment in Canada, and the Liberals keep saying over and over again that they aren't going to spend, they are going to invest. How much they are going to spend? Well, it was like $450 billion on infrastructure alone, and they were sprinkling billions here, billions there, all throughout this budget speech. And now this is happening. Just when you thought things couldn't get any crazier, for some reason they always do. Okay, I have a video here. Let's watch this one.
At the billboard.
Hey, Fox News fans, do you love watching Fox?
It's that time.
Okay, I don't know why that popped up. I did not click on join now. I guess Fox News is now fully monetized on YouTube, and they had to put it out there. That's hilarious.
At the billboard. It's that time again. Hi,
Yes,
hi,
is,
Bill. How
yes.
you doing?
Feels like we never left.
Exactly. So we're excited to see how it all breaks down tonight. Tell us what we should be looking at here.
Gotcha. For New York, I'll just do New York specifically here, because you just mentioned there with the president and him weighing in last night. Coming to New York City, 5 boroughs, a lot of these numbers throughout the night, they're going to blow a lot of folks away at home, because it's such a tapestry of culture and religion and numbers and the density of these 5 boroughs. You got Mamdani in blue, Curtis Sliwa in red, Andrew Cuomo in kind of a light blue right there. 4 years ago, this is how it shakes down in New York. Eric Adams was an easy Democratic winner with more than 2/3 of the vote. Curtis Sliwa was also on the ballot 4 years ago, checked in around 28%. Where does Sliwa do the best? Staten Island, by far among the 5 boroughs, it's the most conservative. Even among Democrats, it's the most conservative as well. And Sliwa in this borough of Staten Island did almost 70% 4 years ago. So how do we throw that into the mix right now this year? By the way, in 2021, Martha, check this out here. In Queens, okay, Eric Adams at 63%. In Brooklyn, Adams at 75%. All right, you seeing this? In the Bronx, he did 79%. And in Manhattan, it's a whopping 85%. Martha, we call those Saddam Hussein numbers, okay? I mean, how do you compete against this right now? So let's pop out of 2021. We'll come down to what we have in store for folks tonight. Pop out of there. Okay, in the borough of Manhattan, for a lot of people watching this tonight, I mean, this is what you're used to, America, right? Central Park, Times Square, Empire State Building, World Trade Center. But in the island of Manhattan, okay, one borough, you got 1.6 million people, right? You talk about affordability, median rent $4,600. New York is not cheap. It's never been cheap. The people who live here and work here are well aware of it. It is, I mean, it can be a struggle. But if you want to face off in maybe the greatest city in America and the greatest city in the world, that's why you choose to work and live here to compete. We got the most billionaires in the world in Manhattan, the island right here. Let me clear this off and go ahead to show you. Let's see here, all right? So we're going to watch this stuff fill in throughout the night, okay, Martha? If you want at home to get kind of a guidepost, since I already showed you what Curtis Sliwa did, okay, remember he was 28% across the 5 boroughs. If you're watching this tonight, okay, and Sliwa has a number that's about 30%, let's say. If that's what we find in our election results, Martha, Mamdani is probably your mayor. If Sliwa is down around 15%, we've got an interesting story. But if his number is half of that, and you think about, the president last night and the New York Post and local media here saying, you might not like Cuomo, but you got to vote for him and don't vote for Sliwa. And this has been a very active campaign locally here in New York. If he's down around 7%, we probably got a ball game. But right now, if you want to go ahead and check those numbers out and see how it shakes down throughout the night, kind of a bit of a guidepost that we'll be watching. Yeah. How Sliwa did 4 years ago and how he's performing tonight.
All right, so there you have it. Honestly, I don't know much at all about the breakdown for New York City. But all I know is the outcome of this is going to be huge. We still have this going on here. I'm going to leave that up on the screen. Yeah, I'm curious to know exactly what happened that made Poilievre kick him from caucus. Alan, how's it going? You're just joining right now because well, let me update you. A plane crash has happened in Louisville. Crazy stuff. Very, very crazy stuff. And a conservative MP has been booted from caucus and now wants to join the Liberal Party. Mark Carney, potentially closer to a majority. And then all it would take is literally 2 members, 3 members right now as it is, to pass whatever the Liberals want. And it just continues to get closer to that majority for them. If they go to an election, I mean, I don't know at this point.
A little bit closer up right now out in Louisville that we want to pass along to you as the evening continues to descend right now in Kentucky, but you can still see those red flames there in the distance as crews are working this breaking news story. And very, very sad images coming out right now of Kentucky. This UPS cargo plane crashing shortly after takeoff. So already, of course, reports of injuries. We do not know the details of just how many people were on board. Those types of information will come out throughout the evening. Very sporadic right now, as you can imagine. UPS has been alerted of this. They have just put out a statement as well saying UPS has been notified of this incident involving one of our aircraft in Louisville. Updates will be posted on as they become available. Back out live right now near Louisville International Airport of this breaking news images of the UPS cargo plane as the flames continue to rip out, smoke pouring out right now throughout Louisville. There is a shelter in place within a 5-mile radius of this air disaster crash site right now. NTSB will be the lead in this investigation. They have launched their NTSB GO team as well to get members there on the ground as soon as it's safe for them to do so. First major thing that needs to happen, though, is the flames need to be put out before any investigation can really take place. Another live look a little bit closer as we await more key details coming from Louisville. But again, breaking news on Live Now from Fox. We will be doing our best to update you throughout the evening. We have multiple different big stories that we are following tonight for you. This breaker out of Louisville. We do have election coverage coming up a little bit later as well throughout the country. Key races in Virginia, New York City, and New Jersey. And again, but our focus right now.
All right, a lot going on right now. Let's throw this up. Hold on. Let me get it out of theater mode.
Let's bring in Kim Strassel, opinion columnist for the Wall Street Journal, and Fox News contributor Mark Penn, former Clinton pollster and CEO of Stagwell Incorporated. So, Kim, let's begin with you. A lot of Democrats, when we look at New York City, are saying, oh, this is just a local race. This does not have national implications. But there's some people out there who believe that if Mamdani pulls off a big victory, this could be the beginning of a socialist wave across America, at least in big blue cities. What do you think?
Yeah, it is. It is going to have national implications, John. I mean, one for Republicans, because if Mamdani wins, you're going to see a very easy foil be set up for President Trump and Republicans, pointing out his policies, the failures, maybe using him as an excuse to send National Guard troops in to, as the president already threatened, to cut off federal funding. And so it's going to be their poster child for where things are going for the Democratic Party. But for the Democratic Party, too, you had Andrew Cuomo there saying this is going to matter. You've already got progressives out there saying, hey, look, we've got two paths here. Look, we were running moderates in New Jersey and Virginia, and then we've got a Democratic socialist in New York, and he's doing better. That just shows that this is the future of the party. If he wins, they're going to take that as a sign that progressive Democrats are the future again, and maybe stop in the tracks some of the second thoughts Democrats have been having about what direction they need to go.
So, Mark, all eyes have been on New York City, but you also have to look to Minneapolis and Seattle as well, where self-proclaimed socialists are running for mayor there. Omar Fattah in Minneapolis, Katie Wilson in Seattle. And the backing for them is splitting the party as well. For example, in Minneapolis, Omar Fattah is backed by Ilhan Omar. Jacob Frey, who is the incumbent, is backed by Tim Walz. I mean, there are a lot of people in the Democratic Party who do not want to see this move towards socialism. What do you say?
Well, I agree with them. Essentially, what's happened here is the DSA has glommed onto the Democratic Party and said, hey, we're Democrats. And unfortunately, the DNC leadership has said, sure, come on in. Right. Doesn't really matter if you believe things that are completely antithetical to core Democratic principles. We're welcoming you if you win elections. I think that's a crazy position for a party. It's ultimately fundamentally destructive. I always remind people that in 1972 and 1984, the Democratic Party managed to reduce itself to a single state. And we could be headed for another wave. I mean, look, we see what happened in Chicago. There was a clear choice. They chose the candidate farther to the left, and now the entire city is in an uproar because of the results that they've gotten. These cities with these mayors are going to get worse results. And this, I think, trend has the real capability to take the party even further down, which, let's face it, it's out of power in all branches of government precisely because it's moved too far to the left.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting that President Trump threw his support behind Andrew Cuomo in New York City. Cuomo is trying to run on good.
I thought that was interesting as well. Trump came out and endorsed a Democrat. That just tells you the situation New York is in, where Mamdani really has a chance to win and has a big chance of screwing a lot up as well. So Trump is going out of his way to endorse a Democrat. That's literally the situation they're at right now. Crazy, crazy night ahead of us, a long night ahead of us, as I've said as well. Going to be covering probably majority New York City mayoral election. And then I want to jump to, I saw very briefly some Canadian stuff on CPAC. Maybe I'll throw that up in the meantime. I also have the full press secretary, the White House press secretary that happened earlier today, or press briefing that happened earlier today. So I'm going to put that up as well eventually. We have, like I said, a very long night. So I'm going to be jumping back and forth between all kinds of things, all kinds of sources as well.
Welcome to us.
No, that's the one I watched earlier. Okay.
Governance, though a lot of people would say he doesn't have a particularly great track record after being governor of New York State. It's showing that. But the appeal for Mamdani is mostly among Gen Z voters, Kimberly, who like the idea of free stuff, free buses, free childcare, low rent, things like that. But remember, as Margaret Thatcher famously said, let's put it up on the screen, the problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money, Kimberly.
That's absolutely right. And by the way, John, don't we all love other people's money? But it just doesn't really work that way. I mean, I can appreciate why Donald Trump is really putting his hat in the ring for Cuomo. Curtis Sliwa doesn't have a shot of winning this. Mm-hmm. And if the president can back a guy who, it looks as though the polls are narrowing and the gaps there and help him put in a good show, that really matters. One thing to watch here, because you make a great point, if this is just younger people and really base voters who are turning out in this election, I think that's where you get the big Mamdani lead that you've seen in some of the polls. But Cuomo's been making the point that if this is a huge turnout election and a lot of people are motivated that maybe you haven't heard from to maybe not be on board with Mamdani, then he's got a better shot. Maybe that's where you see some of that tightening.
And I just want to finish off with you, Mark, on another topic. This is going on in California. What's on the ballot there today is Prop 50. And here's what Prop 50 would do. Here is currently the makeup of congressional delegation in California. You've got 9 Republicans. If Prop 50 is passed, there is a good chance that Republican representation will go down to just 4 seats. Hakeem Jeffries was pressed on this idea of gerrymandering on a Sunday show a week ago. Here's what he said. Listen here.
Democrats are going to push back aggressively to make sure that we have fair maps across the country, not partisan gerrymandering, which Republicans have initiated in state after state after state.
I mean, if you take a look at the potential there in California, how is that possibly fair? And not only that, but Democrats have been at this gerrymandering game for decades now.
Well, that's true because I think Eric Holder and Barack Obama have had this fake nonpartisan redistricting effort, which was really about going from state to state and trying to maximize the number of Democratic seats that they could get. And in fact, the Democrats have an overall advantage, you know, in this gerrymandering. Now, look, the Texas thing set off a war.
Yep.
Politics is going to be met by politics. I think it's an exercise in hypocrisy for Hakeem Jeffries and the others to go out and say, well, if they do that, we'll do this. You know, 4 seats in California when, what is it, 30–40% of the state is Republican. That is gerrymandering in the extreme on the biggest level.
For New York City. And then today he posted on social media that any Jewish person who votes for Mamdani is, quote, stupid. Now, he considers Mamdani an anti-Semite. Mamdani says he is not an anti-Semite. And then today, Cuomo trying to distance himself from Trump's endorsement, saying that the president does not like me, the president does not support me, I am not tied to the president. What the president is saying is that I'm pretty much the lesser of two evils, that he will take me over Mamdani.
That's exactly what it is, though. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And in this case, that's exactly it. The lesser of two evils. Mamdani being, oh, I don't even want to. If he wins, if you're in New York, get out. Escape from New York ASAP. Holy Christ.
Voted well for Andrew Cuomo. We're going to have to wait and see if that's really the case, because the last couple of days, there were a lot of younger people who came out for early voting. But again, it's a beautiful day in New York. There's been a lot of attention on this race here. It is one of the most watched mayoral races of my career. I've been working here in New York City for 32 years, and I have never seen a mayoral election like this one with so many twists and turns. So it's an exciting day to be here. It's exciting that New Yorkers are out and voting, and now we're going to have to wait and see what the outcome is later on tonight. But experts are saying we might know by 10 p.m. Eastern time who the next mayor of New York City is going to be.
There we
Back
go.
to you, Mike.
Yeah, we will definitely continue to be watching and wait for more key details from you and your Fox 5 colleagues. Linda Schmidt, thanks so much for joining us on Live Now from Fox. We really appreciate it.
All right, so I'm going to throw up the press briefing from earlier today, roughly 5 hours ago. I'm wondering if any reporters will talk about the election today. I would assume a few probably will. But I'm also going to go grab some water and a drink for tonight, as it is a long one. So make sure you grab yourself everything you need. We're in it for the long haul, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently 10 p.m. we could be getting the results. So I'm going to throw this up and I will be right back.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you on this beautiful fall afternoon. We are now on day 35 of the Democrat government shutdown. The Democrats' obstructionism will break the record for the longest government shutdown in American history tonight. The Democrats are intentionally hurting American families, workers, and businesses with this shutdown to fight for free health care for illegal aliens and to appease their radical left-wing base. And it's a total disgrace. This past weekend, Americans traveling to weddings, funerals, vacations, and meetings faced significant flight disruptions at airports across the country because of staffing shortages. On Sunday alone, more than 5,000 flights traveling to and from U.S. airports were delayed. Since the Democrat shutdown began, 4 times as many staffing shortages have been reported at air traffic control facilities compared to last year. TSA checkpoint wait times ballooned past 3 hours at Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport, with some passengers enduring up to 5 hours in line. At nearby William P. Hobby Airport in Texas, security wait times are routinely exceeding 1 hour. More than 13,000 air traffic controllers are continuing to work without pay. Because of the Democrats, these men and women who keep our airspace safe and moving will miss a second paycheck in a row this Friday if Democrats refuse to open the government. Let me be clear to our incredible air traffic controllers across the country. President Trump and Republicans want you to get your paychecks. They want you to be paid. Please call on your Democrat senators and tell them to side with President Trump and Republicans to vote to reopen the government. Our nation's 4 largest airlines, United, Delta, American, and Southwest, have now all endorsed the Republican nonpartisan clean funding bill to end the government shutdown. Major unions, collectively representing tens of thousands of pilots, have also joined the airlines in calling on Democrats to pass the clean nonpartisan CR. The travel industry is also imploring Democrats to end the shutdown and reopen the government. Nearly 500 companies and groups in the travel business, including casinos, hotels, and convention bureaus, signed a public letter warning that America's travel economy has already lost $4 billion due to this Democrat shutdown, and they have called for the Republican CR to be passed, saying Americans expect and deserve a fully functioning federal government during the peak holiday travel season. Never before have we seen private industry and union leadership so unified on the same issue, rallying behind Republicans in such a vocal way. The Democrats have completely lost the plot. They are endangering the safety, prosperity, and livelihoods of millions of Americans. It's well past time Democrats do what they did 13 times under Joe Biden and pass the clean funding bill extension. All we need are 5 Democrat senators to put country over party and vote to end this reckless shutdown. In other news, tomorrow will mark the 1-year anniversary of President Trump's historic election victory, where he won nearly 80 million votes, the popular vote, in all 7 swing states. This was the ultimate poll on November 5th. The president secured a mandate to make America great again, and he has delivered in record time. Never before have we had a president who has kept their promises like President Trump has. I'd like to go over a few of those with you. In less than 10 short months, President Trump signed the largest middle-class tax cut in history, including no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security to put more money back into the pockets of the American people. The president ended the southern border invasion of the Biden administration, made our border the most secure in history, and he is carrying out the largest mass deportation campaign of illegal aliens in our nation's history to protect our homeland, just as promised. President Trump has aggressively taken on drug cartels by declaring them as foreign terrorist organizations and even blowing up narco-terrorists who have tried to poison the American people with fentanyl and other illegal narcotics. President Trump defeated the Biden inflation crisis, and he continues to implement a pro-growth, America First economic agenda to make America affordable again, and we are seeing the results of that every day. Inflation has remained low and steady, averaging just 2.5% compared to the painful average of 5% under Biden, and we know it was historically higher than that for most of President Biden's term. Meanwhile, real private sector wages are on track to rise by almost $1,500 since President Trump took office, a significant change to the Biden years where private sector wages declined and were being wiped out by inflation. President Trump has ended the reckless war on American energy and unleashed energy dominance, with gas prices now plummeting to their lowest average levels in more than 4 years. President Trump implemented powerful tariffs to rebalance America's trade deals, protect American workers, and returning our country to be a manufacturing superpower once again. As a result, the president has secured trillions and trillions of dollars in private and foreign investments into the United States, which are creating high-paying jobs for the greatest workforce in the world. The president has restored America's place as the leader of the free world through his unwavering peace through strength foreign policy that has already ended 8 wars and counting. And the president ended illegal DEI.
8 wars. 8 wars. Name one other president. Name one other president. I don't think so. I don't think so, right? 8 wars ended. I don't think there is one that could even match that. In terms of peace and creating peace, there just isn't.
Initiatives in our federal government and is returning our country to a merit-based society based on common sense. President Trump protected opportunities for women and girls to compete safely and fairly by continuing to keep men out of women's sports. Americans have a president who works tirelessly, literally 24/7, to improve their lives and make our country better than it has ever been before. So with that, today we will open it up to questions, and we will start with our independent journalist in our new media seat, Julio Rosas. Julio, please start. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. So over the weekend in Mexico, a mayor in Michoacan, Carlos Manso, he was assassinated while celebrating Dia de Muertos with his family. His assassination has sparked a lot of outrage. A lot of Mexicans are very upset. They're blaming President Claudia Sheinbaum for not taking the cartel threat seriously enough. Yesterday, she said that, once again, she's not going to allow any foreign military intervention to take on the cartels on Mexican soil, and that Mexico is not going to pursue a drug war similar to what they've done in the past. So my question is President Trump satisfied with Claudia Sheinbaum's approach to cartels? And if not, has Manso's assassination kind of opened up some new options for the United States to pursue regarding cartels?
Well, first of all, with respect to this specific news item and this alleged assassination that took place in Mexico, I know the Trump administration, we are aware of that, and of course we condemn all political violence anywhere in all forms. As for Claudia Sheinbaum and the president's relationship with her, I think he has a lot of respect for her as president of Mexico, and he also really appreciates the coordination that she has provided to the Trump administration. I can't speak for her and what she's doing internally in her country. I can speak for the president in saying we are continually pushing Mexico to do more to tackle the drug trafficking and the drug cartels within their country, and we are working with them in any way that we can. And the president has obviously used the full range of executive options in his authorities to crack down on drug trafficking at our southern border. And to designate these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and additional actions as well.
Just one more question.
Sure.
So at the Antifa roundtable that we were at just last month, myself and the other panelists made the recommendation to the president for, speaking of foreign terrorist organizations, to have Antifa not just be domestic terrorist organization, but be designated as a foreign terrorist organization since they have cells in other countries. He mentioned to Secretary Rubio, because he was in the room at the time, to look into that. So I just wanted to see if there's an update on that recommendation.
That process is most definitely taking place. I don't have any announcements for you on that today, but I can certainly assure you the administration is working on it, and I'll check in on it and get back to you, Julio. It's a good question. Thank you very much. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. Zohran Mamdani blamed the president for bomb threats
Here we go.
and intimidation at polling locations. He said, quote, part of the general approach of the Trump administration has taken to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country. I want to give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, I saw those comments from Mamdani. I think they are completely irresponsible, and they are based on zero evidence. And I think this is just another example of how the Democrat Party unfortunately stands for nothing. All they stand against is President Donald Trump. And I think it's quite sad to see that we have someone at the top of the ticket on an election day today saying such things about the president when he obviously had absolutely nothing to do with those threats.
And on the shutdown, Democrats have been pretty quiet about the president's push for the nuclear option, terminating the filibuster. Is there any concern around here that Democrats might actually want Republicans to get rid of the filibuster so that one day when they're in power again, the door's already open for them to pack the Supreme Court, give statehood to D.C. and Puerto Rico, make mail-in balloting permanent, those kinds of things?
I think the president has been very realistic and strong in his position on the filibuster. He's been very vocal about it. I just spoke to him about it. He feels really strongly about this. Republicans need to play tough and they need to play smart. That's how the president feels. And we know that Democrats, if they are ever given a chance at power again in this city, they will absolutely take away the filibuster from the United States Senate. In fact, you had 49 Democrats who already voted to do this before. The only reason it did not move forward was because you had 2 Democrats who are no longer in office because they were run out of town by the far left radical base of their party. And so President Trump is quite clear on this. He wants to see Republicans move as many good pieces of legislation for our country forward in the next 3 years of his administration as they possibly can, and the filibuster is one means to doing that.
Talked to Johnson and Thune about it. I know that they had both voiced some opposition. Have there been any conversations with them?
He has. He's made his position to them very clear, both publicly and privately. Ouija.
Can you help clear up some confusion about SNAP benefits? Because the president just posted that they will only be given out when the radical left Democrats open the government and not before. But just yesterday, the administration said it would comply with a court order to expend the full amount of SNAP contingency funds by end of business day yesterday. So did the administration distribute that money or defy that court order?
No, the administration is fully complying with the court order. I just spoke to the president about it. The recipients of these SNAP benefits need to understand it's going to take some time to receive this money because the Democrats have forced the administration into a very untenable position. We are digging into a contingency fund that is supposed to be for emergencies, catastrophes, for war. And the president does not want to have to tap into this fund in the future, and that's what he was referring to in his Truth Social post. So the Department of Agriculture, as for the latest SNAP payment in the judge's order, put out guidance to states today on how to get that money to the recipients of SNAP. But it's going to take some time. The best way to get the full amount of SNAP benefits to those beneficiaries is for Democrats to reopen the government. So to anyone who is a SNAP beneficiary at home who needs that assistance, and the president was just saying, this is for people who are truly needy, who need food, who need this assistance from the United States government. Democrats are holding it up and making it difficult for the administration to get those payments out the door. So if you are at home and you want your SNAP benefits, call the Democrats and tell them to reopen the government.
Call your local Democrat. I mean, she's not wrong. All right, we will come back to the press briefing. Let's throw this up.
It's election day and polls are open in several key races across the country. We'll be watching it unfold one by one in all the must-watch states, from governor's races in Virginia and New Jersey to the mayor's race right here in New York City. The intense wall-to-wall election coverage begins right now. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany, here with my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Emily Campagno. Also joining us, Martha McCallum, anchor and executive editor of The Story and co-anchor of Fox News election coverage, and Bill Hemmer, co-anchor of America's Newsroom. Let's start here in the Garden State, New Jersey. Voters beginning to cast their ballots to choose their next governor. You have Democratic Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill versus Republican contender Jack Ciattarelli. Over 1 million people have voted early during those early vote stages, and here's both candidates making their final pitches to New Jersey voters.
We have an affordability crisis in New Jersey, and I can address that on day one. One, I'm going to reduce the size and cost of a bloated, inefficient state government. Two, we're going to pull out of the carbon tax. And with a new school funding formula, I can lower property taxes across New Jersey.
Oh, a carbon tax. Wow. Sounds like Canada.
Cost for people. We've surpassed the firewall we wanted to put in place today.
Just keep an eye on every other tax. Get rid of one and they'll raise another.
Blue firewall, which is the numbers are looking good. So we just are going to run through the tape and continue getting out every vote.
Now to a few hundred miles south in the Commonwealth of Virginia, voters are making their way to elect their first female governor, Democrat Abigail Spanberger or Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears. Earl Sears is aiming to keep the governor's mansion red, while Spanberger has been running on the message of combating the Trump administration.
Today, Virginia is going to elect a woman governor.
That would be me, Steve. Go and vote. This is your country. Don't let people tell their children to be against America. There is no place like America. God bless you.
I plan on ensuring that we don't just win tomorrow, but that we crush it tomorrow.
And then there's the race that America has its eyes on right here in the Big Apple. New York City residents are at the polls picking their next mayor. Self-proclaimed Democrat socialist Zoran Mamdani could be running America's biggest city by the end of the day. Now, that's if former Governor Andrew Cuomo cannot pull off the upset victory.
Do you have a closing message to Andrew Cuomo voters?
If they want to vote for a candidate endorsed by Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Stephen Miller, by all means, they should vote for Andrew Cuomo. If they want to vote for a candidate who will actually stand up to that agenda and deliver on an affordability agenda, then they should vote for me.
President Trump is pragmatic. He is telling them the reality of the situation, which is if you do not vote, Mamdani is going to win. Who is Mamdani? I don't know, but he's a democratic socialist. He'll bring socialism to New York City. New York City will not thrive with a socialist economy.
Andrew Cuomo needs to go back, hide under his rock out in the Hamptons with his billionaire friends who have left really a stench over the city of New York, divisive.
Well, let's start with a Trump Truth Social that was truly incomprehensible 4 years ago. You know, Martha, when I was in the White House, you remember the dueling press conferences. It was Andrew Cuomo in the morning. It was Donald Trump's COVID press conference in the afternoon. They were rivals, and I think that's even understating what they were. And then here you are 4 years later, and you have President Trump's Truth Social. Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. He is capable of it. Mamdani is not. I think his truth speaks to just how radical of a position Mamdani has and what a radical posture that party has.
Yeah, you know, I think about the Democratic Party, because that's really what tonight is all about. You know, sort of how strong is this Democratic Party that has these two very big factions? You know, you have, I remember when Bernie Sanders became the first socialist senator in America. And it was like, wow, there's a socialist senator from Vermont. It was a very novel, you know, feeling not typically American situation at all. Then you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York, and now you have Mamdani in New York. So you see the growth of this. We have candidates in the Midwest also running as part of the Democratic Socialists of America. You need to dig into what they stand for and what they say. Think about the fact that Linda Sarsour has said, if he is elected, we will hold his feet to the fire on issues like Israel, for example. So this is a huge moment here tonight. I know a lot of people say, well, if he's elected, you know, New York will sort of tough it out and it'll be okay. You got to really watch the movement in the Democratic Party here, because this is where the energy is this evening. And that's why you have Donald Trump, the president of the United States, looking at the situation as someone who loves New York City and saying, look, I would rather vote for Cuomo than be stuck with Mamdani. And I think it's a very, very strong message coming from Trump. And I think he, in a way, should help Cuomo a bit by distancing himself from him, as he has in the past, in a very authentic way, but saying, look, you got to really think about where this is headed.
Indeed. And, you know, I want to play a clip that's pretty eye-opening. It's from a primary voter, and she explains why she voted on Mamdani.
I voted for Mamdani.
Do you feel like socialism would work in New York City?
No, not necessarily.
So socialism wouldn't work, but she's voting for Mamdani. This is a grand experiment. I want to emphasize
the level of stupidity. No, socialism won't work, but I'm going to vote for the socialist. Haha, that's funny. Oh my god. They're a fucking bunch of brain-dead idiots.
New York's economy is $2.3 trillion. That is 9% of the United States economy. 9%. That is bigger than the economy of Canada. That is about to set out on a grand experiment into democratic socialism, which is what Mamdani represents. And Harris, I love that Martha framed that as this is a conversation for the Democratic Party tonight, because I can already hear the Democratic commentary in my head saying, look at Abigail Spanberger if she is to prevail. You know, if, for instance, you have Mikey Sherrill prevail. They're moderate Democrats. That's the direction of the party. When you have this eyesore over here in New York City, should Mamdani prevail, that is socialism.
The challenge for moderate Democrats, particularly the two that you just mentioned, and Mikey Sherrill for certain in New Jersey has this in droves, an unenviable inability to read the room on when you need to say your policies. Like, I don't know if she actually thought she could get through an entire election season without articulating how she was going to bring down one of the biggest issues in New Jersey, and that's the cost of energy. But she...
No, I'm not saying it's funny. They act like it's funny. They act like it's a joke, right? Like, she sits there and goes, yeah, socialism won't work, but I'm going to vote for the guy that is promoting socialism in his agenda. And then she laughs about it. Like, she acts like it's some big joke. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, these people do get to vote. It's crazy. It's actually crazy. Imagine saying, like, imagine consciously knowing the thing you are voting for is going to destroy that city, but you still go out of your way to vote for it. It's literally like voting for the Liberal Party here in Canada after 10 years of what we just had. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Oh man, I feel bad. I actually feel bad because here in Canada, like, there's a bunch of crazies, but in the States, like, the left is just, it's even crazier to some extent. Like, yeah, like, there's some crazy MPs on the Liberal Party and on the NDP, but the Democrats are just, some of them are on another level of just insanity. I don't think the normal person can even comprehend. Like, they can't connect the two dots. It's mind-blowing. Like, voting for the very destruction of your own city while actively knowing it. It's crazy. Yeah, some people literally will vote just to hop on the bandwagon to piss everybody else off. That is so true. That is very true.
He has tried to do that. She brings in Obama, and I guess his personal electricity is going to make up the difference. I guess we'll see. But what, Martha, you were talking about with this sort of nationwide eye-opening experience in the Democratic Party, I think of Katie Wilson in Seattle and Michelle Wu and...
It's literally... Hold on.
Targeting me one.
It's gonna sound cheesy because it's from a movie, but it's literally this line right here from this scene.
Get their money back. I knew the mob wouldn't go down without a fight, but this is different. They've crossed the line.
You crossed the line first, so you squeezed them, you hammered them to the point of desperation. And in their desperation, they turned to a man they didn't fully understand.
Criminals aren't complicated, Alfred. We just need to figure out what he's after.
With respect, Master Wayne, perhaps this is a man you don't fully understand either. A long time ago, I was in Burma. My friends and I were working for the local government. They were trying to buy the loyalty of tribal leaders by bribing them with precious stones. But their caravans were being raided in a forest north of Rangoon by a bandit. So we went looking for the stones. But in 6 months, we never met anyone who traded with him. One day, I saw a child playing with a ruby the size of a tangerine. The bandit had been throwing them away.
So why steal them?
Well, because he thought it was good sport. Because some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
And that is simply it right there. And I know it sounds cheesy because it's from a movie, but it's the honest truth. And that voter, this voter right here, just pretty much proved that. Let's go back one more time. Where was it? It was in this video here, wasn't it? Somewhere back here. Right there.
On Mamdani.
I voted for Mamdani.
Do you feel like socialism would work in New York City?
No, not necessarily.
So socialism would...
No reasoning behind it. No reasoning behind it other than some people just want to watch the world burn. Some people just want to stick it to others. Or like Alan said, yes, just hop on the bandwagon to piss everybody else off. It's the truth, though. It really is.
Pretty much a live one for the following 4 years.
The parents had the right to veto bills, veto books, Glenn, not to be knowledgeable about it, also take them off the shelves. And I'm not going to let parents come into schools and actually take books out and make their own decision.
You vetoed it.
So, yeah, I stopped the bill that I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach.
Bill, here's the reason I play that. So that was 2021, these same races. Yeah. He says parents shouldn't be in schools. And it set up a trend line. We saw Glenn Youngkin prevailed. It was a huge victory. He prevailed by 2%. The same kind of trends were happening in New Jersey. Jack Ciattarelli came much closer than people thought. And that conversation about transgender, these so-called woke issues, parents in schools, that set up and presaged what we saw play out a few years later.
Yeah. I think with regard to Virginia, what I would look out for are places like Loudoun County. This is Northern Virginia, heavily populated, can be very blue, like you get into Fairfax and Prince William County there. A lot of voters come from that part of the state. You know, for Winsome Sears to prevail, she's got to go like down the southwest part of the state, and she's got to be well above 80% in each county. And Youngkin did that, and Trump did that. We'll find out whether or not she can do that tonight. Can I just make one comment about New York quickly, and then you're right about Bernie Sanders, Martha. He was a man on his own mountain for years, and then AOC came along, younger, attractive, had a lot of energy, very active on social media. She gave his movement more energy and more life. And now we have, possibly, Mamdani coming and doing it in a very similar way. I was looking at the congressional delegations in the city of New York. By the way, I just want to say this. When you study the 5 boroughs of New York, you aren't studying a county or a state. You are honestly studying an entire country.
Yeah.
It is fascinating, the different fabrics we have here. And we're going to see that play out tonight on the map. Back to the point. There are 12 members of Congress who have a part of their district among the 5 boroughs. 11 are Democrats. One's a Republican, Nicole Malliotakis out in Staten Island. Of the 11 Democrats, about half, 6, have endorsed Mamdani. The other have not. So to your point about where we are tomorrow on this, if Mamdani is the mayor of New York, it's going to be a house divided. You know, they talk about football when, you know, the wife supports one team and the husband supports another. That's the way it's going to be in the Democratic Party. And if he comes out as a victor, every politician in the Democratic Party in America is going to be asked a question. Do you support his policies? And that's going to be a very interesting debate to watch.
He will be a thorn in the side of every vulnerable House Democrat, and he will be a foil, Emily, if he wins against Donald Trump. And you are going to see over the next 3 years, if Zoran wins, this really grand drama play out. The case study of socialism in New York City, and then President Trump, who has a very different vision. And make no mistake, he will try to make the vision of Zoran the vision of the Democratic Party and tie the two together.
The issue that I see that is unfolding here.
That's the most crazy thing to me, is that the Democrats are divided over a literal socialist communist. That is where that party is at. They do not have anybody to run to be the face of the party. They are going for Mamdani. That is absolutely crazy. All right, let's head back to Caroline. And let's see what's going on here.
That contingency fund for the future if this shutdown lingers on?
Look, the president does not want to have to continue to dip into a contingency fund that doesn't even have enough money, by the way, to fund the full program. It takes $9 billion to get the full scale of the benefits out the door. This contingency fund only has about $5 billion in it. So again, Democrats need to reopen the government so we can get these benefits out the door for people who truly need them. Kate.
Thanks.
The president suggested that if Mamdani wins, that he would cut federal funding to New York. How much funding would be impacted? What would be impacted there?
Well, look, we won't get ahead of the election results, nor will I speak to what the president may do in the future. We'll see how tonight goes, and then I'll let him speak on it further.
And why did the administration exclude Democratic lawmakers? Last week there was a briefing about U.S. strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats. Why were those Democrats excluded?
The administration has briefed Congress on these matters 8 separate times, and Democrats have been included in those briefings. In fact, I know that Secretary Rubio will be on Capitol Hill tomorrow to brief the Gang of 12, which includes Democrats as well. So the president's made it very clear, if senators want to understand the administration's operations against narco drug traffickers, we are very happy to speak with them about that, and we will continue to do so. But we've been incredibly transparent. As I said, there's been 8 briefings on this topic, with the 9th coming tomorrow. Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline. There's been some reporting out there about the possibility of furloughed workers not getting back pay. We know that the president signed that bill into law in his first term. Does the administration guarantee that all furloughed workers will get back pay?
This is something we are very much open to discussing with Democrats as part of the discussions about the continuing resolution to keep the government open, and it's something that Republicans are talking with Democrats about right now. I won't get ahead of those negotiations or discussions.
That's a possibility that may not happen, even though it's law.
I just said Republicans in the White House are very much open to discussing this with Democrats.
And just one last question. As this government shutdown now drags on, about to make history as the longest government shutdown in American history, can you talk about what the president is personally doing to try to see an end to this?
He's pushing Republicans to keep voting and to keep opening up the Senate floor to vote for the clean continuing resolution. He had the Senate Majority Leader and the House Caucus Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, here at the White House to talk about this in the very early stages, to give them a chance to come to their senses and avoid this entire government shutdown at the very beginning. And they chose not to. And I think it's been very clear to everyone in this room and to everyone across the country that the Democrats are playing partisan politics with our United States federal government. And all Republicans have wanted to do for the last 35 days is reopen the government. That has been the president's position since day one. It is his position today on day 35. And all we need are 5 common sense Democrats with have a little bit of courage and come to the table and vote with Republicans. I saw Senator John Fetterman on television last night saying that he hopes more folks in his party will step up. And we certainly agree with him on that point.
Sure. Caroline, the president posted on True Social that the voting underway in California is, quote, rigged. What evidence does he have of that, and what does it mean that mail-in ballots in that state are...
It's, quote, rigged. That was just funny. I'm sorry. But, anyway, we have a crazy situation going on in New York. Obviously, that's why I'm live right now. We have a video coming out on Fox News very soon.
Hey, Fox.
Why does that keep popping up? Anyway, thank you all for joining. We still have, apparently, till 10 p.m. the results should come in. Don't know if that's true. But, yeah, we have a long night ahead of us. Still 3 hours, at least. We have a video from the 5 at 5 in a couple minutes here, so we'll go back to Caroline.
Under legal and criminal review. By whom and why? And also, in this vein, does the White House still plan to issue an executive order banning mail-in voting, and what legal authority do you have to do that?
The White House is working on an executive order to strengthen our elections in this country and to ensure that there cannot be blatant fraud, as we've seen in California with their universal mail-in voting system. It's absolutely true that there's fraud in California's elections. It's just a fact. It is just a fact. They have a universal mail-in voting system, which we know is ripe for fraud. And if you want to deny that, I'm happy to provide you all of the evidence for it. I'd be glad to send that to you after this briefing.
Rigged.
Fraudulent ballots that are being mailed in the names of other people, in the names of illegal aliens who shouldn't be voting in American elections. There's countless examples, and we'd be happy to provide them. As for executive action the White House is taking, yes, we are looking into that. And like any executive order, of course, any executive order the president signs is within his full executive authority and within the confines of the law. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. I've got 2 questions I'd like to ask you about New York, but first I'd like to ask you about breaking news from the Attorney General. She revealed just about an hour ago that the Biden Justice Department seized President Trump's official first-term phone and subpoenaed his private phone records. Do you have a reaction to that? And also, do we know if they actually got those private call records?
I saw the Attorney General's post on that. For additional questions, I would refer you to the Department of Justice, but I think this is just further evidence of the egregious overreach and weaponization of government that took place under the previous White House against then former President and now President Donald J. Trump. It was a clear effort by the Biden White House and the Biden DOJ to go after the president, and this is just further evidence of that.
On New York, we've seen the president's messages that he's put out, but could you describe how he's feeling as a New Yorker watching this election?
Well, the president is a New Yorker and he loves New York. It is his home. He talks about that all of the time, and he's made his thoughts on this election quite clear, I think, himself. In the back, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Over the weekend, there were reports.
I was going to you in the green, but go ahead and then you can have your question.
Thank you. Over the weekend, there were reports that President Trump was due to host President of Syria, Ahmad al-Sharia, on Monday. Do you have any preview for that meeting? Is he expected to invite him to join the U.S.-led anti-ISIS coalition?
I can confirm that that meeting will be taking place here at the White House on Monday, and this is part of the president's efforts in diplomacy to meet with anyone around the world in the pursuit of peace. And as you know, when the president was in the Middle East, he made the historic decision to lift sanctions on Syria to give them a real chance at peace. And I think the administration, we've seen good progress on that front under their new leadership. And so he will be here at the White House on Monday, and I'll let the president speak further on it on Monday. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I was just curious, you had mentioned there that President Trump, as we know, has been speaking with Republican leaders in Congress about reopening the government. Is he involved in any other negotiations? And is he prepared to sign something if a deal does come out by the end of this week? On top of that, with SNAP benefits, does he have any authorities or considering any authority there to release more funds to help people who are desperately needing these benefits?
So look, I think I've already answered the question on SNAP. We're complying with the court's order, and we're getting that partial payment out the door as much as we can and as quickly as we can, but it's going to take some time because, again, this is a prorated payment that we're tapping into a contingency fund for. The best way to get those payments out the door is for Democrats to reopen the government. But yes, the president is in constant communication with his friends on Capitol Hill. They know, they call, he answers, he picks up the phone. He's a very transparent president in that way. And as soon as the Democrats pass the clean continuing resolution, President Trump will be here to sign it. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline.
I apologize for that. If you're a headphone user, you probably are now deaf. I went to go switch on the 5 at 5 video, and there's a countdown, and it was just full volume, so I apologize for that. Anyway, we have about 20 seconds to this video, and then we will head back to Caroline. SNAP is broken and not going to get payments on time because of Democrats. I mean, you can blame the entire shutdown for the Democrats and the, 4 Republicans?
2 hours away from the first polls closing on Election Day, New Jersey and Virginia are electing governors. New York City is choosing a mayor. And that race could forever alter the course of the Democratic Party. Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and Republican Curtis Sliwa duking it out for who leads the Big Apple. President Trump weighing in by endorsing Andrew Cuomo and threatening to cut funds if communist Zohran Mamdani wins the mayor's race. Here's what the candidates are saying.
Endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has got. We're talking about Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Stephen Miller. These are the architects, in many ways, of the crisis of authoritarianism that New Yorkers are facing. And Andrew Cuomo is so unwilling to tax Donald Trump's billionaire donors because he knows those are the same ones whose checks that he's busy cashing trying to get back to City Hall.
President Trump is pragmatic. He is telling them the reality of the situation, which is if you do not vote, Mamdani is going to win. Who is Mamdani? I don't know, but he's a democratic socialist. He'll bring socialism to New York City. New York City will not thrive with a socialist economy.
Cuomo needs to go back, hide under his rock out in the Hamptons with his billionaire friends who have left really a stench over the city of New York.
Some top Democrats are fawning over Mamdani's campaign. Barack Obama was offering to be a sounding board. Others, not so sure.
Do you see Mamdani as the future of the Democratic Party?
No, I think the future of the Democratic Party is going to fall, as far as we're concerned, relative to the House Democratic Caucus and members who are doing a great work all across the country.
Kaylee, let me turn it over to you and just set the picture for us because...
Okay, so I don't know if my microphone was picking me up before. I'm just going to cut that off very briefly. Yeah, the SNAP benefits are like a monthly payment program that essentially you can buy food with. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure if it comes in, like, the actual form of cash or if it's just through, like, coupons or however it works. But, yeah, it's basically foods. Yeah, food stamps. That's pretty much what I'm getting at. Yeah, wild stuff. Is my microphone working now? I guess it wasn't picking up my voice before. Let me see. Let me double check before we continue on.
A light blue right there. 4 years ago, this is how it shakes down.
Yeah, okay, we're good. We're good.
These are races that are local and state elections, but I think that they have bigger consequence for the country going forward.
Without a doubt. I mean, you think back to 2021 and you think about this huge victory by Glenn Youngkin, and then you also think about how close Jack Ciattarelli came, and the animating themes of those elections were transgenderism was one of them. The woke agenda was another. Parents having rights in schools. And oh, wait, if those sound familiar, they should, because they animated the election that won Donald Trump the White House. But we knew these themes were percolating up 4 years ago, 4 years prior to that moment, because of a night like tonight. So we will see themes in Virginia where it looks like the Democrat has the advantage, in New Jersey, where these are the more moderate candidates. And when Jessica Tarlov is back, I'm sure she'll say this is proof that moderates win, and that's the message of the Democratic Party. But we can't lose sight of Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist who is poised potentially to take over New York City. And let me just say this about Zohran Mamdani. He's selling voters a basket of lies. And there are two facts that I found today that I think are very important. One, the state that spends the most on welfare and education combined is New York City. No state spends more than New York State on those two items. In fact, they spend 72% more than Texas on that, 130% more than Florida. Zohran wants free childcare. That would cost, let's see, $6 billion a year. He wants free buses. He wants city-owned grocery stores. So you already have the biggest welfare state, and you want to pour more into the welfare state. At the same time, fact number two, millionaires are leaving. There's been a 2% decline in millionaires. If you look at that $10 million and above bracket that you really need to fund the programs, 10% have fled over a 4-year period. So your taxpayers are dwindling. You are promising free stuff, and you are, I hate to say it, it sounds harsh, lying to your voters who are not going to wake up tomorrow with free childcare, city-run grocery stores, and the like. And it's really quite awful what he's doing, but it's going to be a wake-up call for the nation when you contrast a robust Trump economy that I believe is on the horizon and Zohran Mamdani.
And Harold, this is in addition to the political parties going through realignments, the Republicans quite farther along than the Democrats on that front. But it's also the first real election, I think, since COVID, where you have the change in the electorate in terms of who has left. So you have a different type of electorate right now than you did even 4 years ago.
You're right. It's good to be with everybody. Just to put some of this level setting around New York, the last two mayors we've had, Bill de Blasio, who served for 8 years, he thought he was a national figure. He ran for president, and his campaign was roundly rebuffed. Eric Adams was mayor. He started off on a great trajectory and projected himself and billed himself as the future of the party, that if the Democrats wanted to succeed, they needed to follow him. He ran into some obstacles. He now finds, as he's leaving, many of the things that he wanted to do, Dana, he's actually doing. Crime is coming down the city. The economic plight of the city is actually improving in many ways. Two, Mamdani won't be the face of the Democratic Party or the life of the Democratic Party. He'll be part of it. And I'm not prepared tonight at 5:15 to say that he's won. You work for a president who they said he had lost and he actually won the race.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's let the voters make their cast their votes. We still have 4 hours, 3 hours, and 45 or 55 minutes to go in this race. Three, I look at the Democratic Party and look at some mayors, and I've mentioned these people on the show before. The mayor of your home city of Philadelphia, Sherelle Parker, she beat a guy and helped beat a district attorney who many believe, rightly so, were just letting criminals back onto the streets. She ran on that black woman, ran on a tough crime message. In San Francisco, we've made fun of them. We've talked about serious challenges they face. They unelected. A Democrat ran against another Democrat in the primary, Daniel Lurie, and is now tackling crime in a different way and trying to bring about more investment in the city in many ways. Much like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz are not the face of the Republican Party, he won't be the face of the Democratic Party. But where you're right, Kayleigh, is that he has touched on the issue that I think has animated this race, not only in New York, but all across the country. There's a mayor's race in Seattle tonight, DP, faced with the same kind of thing, a young progressive running against an incumbent.
A young white woman running against a diverse older guy who's like, wait, I did all the right things and nobody likes me?
But we'll see. So we'll see what happens there. And that race also will be a telltale. I want to let the voters vote tonight. I think the real race is your home state of Jersey. What your home state, but where you count as one of your homes.
One of your homes. Wow.
Excuse me, one of her many homes.
A place you call home.
That race tonight
will determine who's the winner tonight. If Republicans and Democrats, I don't think the margin really matters. As someone that lost a race, and the people who voted for me said we were enthusiastic for you, and the people who voted for the other guy said we were so-so on him. I'd much rather win a race with unenthusiastic majority than lose it with an enthusiastic minority. So that race tonight is the one I'm watching the most. And in New York, everybody's watching the margin. If indeed Mamdani wins, does he get over 50? He obviously has a mandate to do some of the things that Kayleigh so eloquently talked about.
Okay, before I ask Jesse a question, just so that I'm sure everybody's noticed on your screen, we have the Fox News voter poll up there. So we'll be getting more from Sandra Smith towards the end of the show. But you can see a few of these things percolating in. And just from a quick glance, the economy, Jesse, is certainly the big deal. But Trump and Mamdani, the Democrats want Trump to be the end-all, be-all. Republicans are going to make Mamdani the face of it, and he's not a shrinking violet. He wants to be the party leader.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
No, Sean Hannity, I will not be doing that. I think it's quite funny that they want to make Mamdani, it's Mam Donnie, the leader or the face of the Democrat Party. And they're completely divided on it. They don't even know. They don't know if they want that or not. All right, before we get back to Caroline, let's take a look at this again.
Multiple agencies are responding to this scene near Fern Valley and Grade Lane, where a cargo McDonnell Douglas MD-11 crashed. In a post on X, the department said injuries have been reported and that Grade Lane will remain closed indefinitely. There were 3 individuals on board, according to a statement from UPS. The individual's status is not known at this time. There is video being shared on social media that showed thick black smoke rising near the crash immediately after the incident that happened at the airport. Authorities issued a shelter-in-place order for locations within 5 miles of the airport as crews work to contain the area where the UPS MD-11 crashed. The airport, which serves as the global air hub for UPS, houses the company's World Port facility, spanning more than 5 million square feet and employing more than 12,000 workers who process about 2 million packages daily, according to the UPS. The MD-11F, originally produced by McDonnell Douglas and later by Boeing, is a 3-engine wide-body aircraft used primarily for freight operations. It can take off weighing as much as 633,000 pounds and carrying more than 38,000 gallons of fuel, according to Boeing. Once popular as a passenger jet in the 1990s, many MD-11s were converted to freighters as fuel prices rose. And the latest update that there was more than 280,000 gallons of fuel on board at the time here of this crash. A local reporter there on the scene. Let's go to another vantage point and show you this from a distance as the fire continuing at this hour right now. Stay with us on Live Now from Fox. We will continue to update you on the situation.
But also accountability. And I think people are like, okay, at this point in the campaign, ideas are great. How are you going to make them happen? And how are you going to make them happen if you have the federal government willing to step in on a moment's notice to do whatever they feel they need to do in order to protect the country as a whole, but especially this piece of land called New York City?
That's a thing that's happening in the midst of this. But another thing that's happening in the midst of this is the government shutdown. I'm wondering if that came up at all today.
I think some people, one of the big concerns is this food issue. People talk about SNAP, that's affecting a certain percentage of people, but also you have other people in the backs of many New Yorkers' minds. How stable is my job? How reliable is my job? If I lose my job, am I going to be one of the people that has to wait online for 3 hours with a shopping cart at an outside pop-up food pantry in order to feed my family?
It's really interesting to think about how the national politics, national debates have impacted this race and how this race is impacting the national debate.
Well, it's all one, you know, they're so intertwined, and especially as you know in New York City, anything to fund anything, nothing is just, very few things are fully funded by the city alone. It's city funds, state funds, federal funds. You have to be able to navigate this labyrinth of all these competing agencies and who's in charge of this, who has this jurisdiction, and it's very, very difficult for any candidate.
Yes. Lisa Evers, thank you so much for your analysis throughout this entire battleground season. We've really loved your on-the-ground reporting.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you, Essie.
Okay, up next, whether it's affordability or housing, crime, public transportation, or education, parents drove a lot of the...
Yeah, based on the fire that in the pictures I just saw there, I'm going to assume that the pilots probably did not make it through that crash. That was pretty brutal. It was a really, really bad crash. Apparently it happened as soon as they took off as well. Like, they were in the air and then they just, boom, that was it. Like, they weren't in the air for very long at all. Crazy stuff. Absolutely terrible. Crazy, crazy stuff as well. The giant UPS facility as well. They're claiming like one of the biggest ones.
President Trump has threatened to go into Nigeria, guns a-blazing, if Nigeria's government does not stop the killing of Christians in that country. Has the White House heard back from Nigeria's government on this threat?
As the president stated, Michael, if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the United States will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. And may take action to wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities, especially against innocent women and children. I don't have any further announcements on that for you today, but I can assure you the President of the United States is watching this situation unfold very closely, as is our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
Question, Caroline. President Trump has endorsed Andrew Cuomo in New York City's mayoral race. He has not by name endorsed Winsome Sears in Virginia's gubernatorial race. Why is that?
Look, as you know from this podium, I'm quite limited in what I can say with regards to ongoing political elections. I think the president has spoken for himself and what he wants to see take place in these elections today.
Right.
Lalit.
Thank you. I would like to ask you about India-U.S. relationship. What is President's thoughts on the future of India-U.S. relationship?
I'm sorry, Lalit, can you repeat that?
What is President's thoughts on future of India-U.S. relationship?
I think he feels very positive and strongly about it. As you know, he recently, a few weeks back, spoke to Prime Minister directly when he celebrated in the Oval Office Diwali with many high-ranking Indian American officials here at the White House. We have a great U.S. ambassador to India in Mr. Sergio Gore, who will represent our country very well. And the president and his trade team continue to be in very serious discussions with India with respect to that topic. So I know the president has great respect for Prime Minister Modi, and they speak pretty frequently. Thank you.
Hi, yes. The air traffic controller crisis ongoing. Secretary Duffy said he will now start to cancel and ground flights next week to maintain safety. Should people fly next week given this new information, and is the administration encouraging people to stop flying altogether and look at alternative transportation modes?
The administration is encouraging Democrats to reopen the federal government so this chaos and disruption to our air traffic control system in the United States of America stops. It is ridiculous that we have even gotten to this place and that the Democrats have continued to shut down the government with 35 days, our air traffic controllers continuing to work unpaid, every single major airline in our country coming out and begging the Democrats to please reopen the government. And you had a Democrat staffer who was quoted, I believe in Politico a few weeks back, saying, short of planes falling out of the sky, we are not going to reopen the government. That is a reckless and dangerous statement from someone who didn't want to put their name on that statement, but we know it came from the Democrat Party. And I think we're very clear. We want to reopen the government so we can resume travel in the safest and most efficient way possible, especially as we head into the busiest travel season of the month. We have Thanksgiving in a few weeks. And so Americans across the country need to make it very clear to their Democrat representatives that we want this government to be reopened so we can resume safe and efficient travel. Fran.
Caroline, as of last I checked, the president still had not commented on the death of former Vice President Dick Cheney. Is the White House involved in funeral arrangements in any way? Does the president plan to speak at the funeral? Has he spoken to anyone in the Cheney family today? And does the White House have an opinion on whether or not the former vice president should lie in honor or stay in the Capitol?
I don't believe the White House is involved in that planning, or at least hasn't gotten to it yet. I know the president is aware of the former vice president's passing, and as you saw, flags have been lowered to half staff in accordance with statutory law. Jasmine.
Thank you. Back on the question of the filibuster, how much political capital is President Trump willing to expend to get Republicans to do what he's asking? I mean, will we see him at the Hill? Will he be calling folks over here? What exactly is President Trump planning to do outside of these true socials and maybe some of these private conversations to get Republicans to fall in line?
Look, I think you'll see. I think you'll see the president continue to engage very strongly and consistently with his friends on Capitol Hill. I don't have any meetings to read out for you at this time, but I think you should stay tuned and keep your eyes on Truth Social on this matter. The president's making his position on it quite clear. And again, he is right. Republicans need to play tough. We know that this is what the Democrats will do if they are ever given the keys to power again. And he wants to pass as many good pieces of legislation as we possibly can for our country and for our people. That includes election integrity reforms. It includes additional tax policy. It includes, fixing our immigration system further in ways that only Congress can. And the president fears with a Democrat Party that is so radical and opposes everything he does and everything he says, this is the only option for Republicans to move forward. Karen.
Question. President Trump said to CBS in the 60 Minutes interview that he did not know the Binance founder, which he pardoned. What exactly did he mean for that? I know it caused.
He means he does not know him personally. He means he does not have a personal relationship with this individual. And when it comes to pardons, the White House takes them with the utmost seriousness, and the president understands the responsibility that he has as president to issue clemency and issue pardons to individuals who are seeking that. That's why we have a very thorough review process here that moves with the Department of Justice and the White House counsel's office. There's a whole team of qualified lawyers who look at every single pardon request that ultimately make their way up to the President of the United States. He's the ultimate final decision maker. And he was very clear when he came into office that he was most interested in looking at pardoning individuals who were abused and used by the Biden Department of Justice and were over-prosecuted by a weaponized DOJ. And the individual you're referring to, that was certainly the case. Even the judge in his case said that the sentencing that the Biden administration was asking for was egregious and went too far. And so the president is correcting that wrong, and he has officially ended the Biden administration's war on the cryptocurrency industry, and I think that's the message he sent with this pardon. Karen.
The auto pens war on crypto. Okay, guys, we have an update here from Virginia. It looked like it said something about maybe the first round of polls closing in Virginia.
Fox 5 New York coverage will continue in just a little bit, and our coverage, of course, will continue on live now from Fox. Many key races to talk about in multiple states. We'll be bringing you the updates in real time right here on Live Now from Fox. Let's go from New York, though, right now to Fox 5 DC, the coverage from the big governor race in Virginia. Let's listen in on Live Now.
Spamberger's campaigns, how are they feeling tonight at this point with polls?
I talked to the campaign and the Spamberger camp. They're feeling pretty good heading into tonight. And why wouldn't they? I mean, they've had leads from the beginning of this race to where we are tonight. A lot of them tonight, the Real Clear Politics parked Spamberger at 10 points up on their average of polls. So, they're eyeing, possibly a double-digit win tonight. Much different perspective you're hearing from the Spears camp and from a lot of Republicans, maybe a little bit of buyer's remorse. Remember, 4 years ago, we knew Glenn Youngkin could not run for another term as governor. That's the way they do it in Virginia. You only have, 1 4-year term at a time. And there was a lot of talk, were we going to see Jason Miyares run for governor versus Winsome Sears in a Republican primary in the Commonwealth of Virginia? Didn't happen. Miyares decided he was going to run for Attorney General again, and by all accounts, he's run pretty strong so far, and a not so great year probably for Republicans. Winsome Earl Sears right now, has a lot of people wondering if this is going to impact some of the down ballot races, and that we're talking about the House of Delegates right now, because all 100 seats in the Virginia House of Delegates are up for election tonight. Now, that's important not only for Virginia, but nationally, because we've been talking about the special session going on with redistricting. Virginia Democrats who control the General Assembly right now want to redistrict 5 of the congressional districts which are currently held by Republicans. If they're successful in that and are able to wipe that out, that could have a big impact of the makeup of the Congress up on the Hill. So if Republicans are able to get control of the House of Delegates tonight, that would stop that in its tracks.
Yeah.
That would come to an immediate
Well, Mark, were Republicans competitive in the gubernatorial race? They tried to be. I mean, at many points, Spanberger had a double-digit lead in the polls against Winston Earl Sears and, sitting lieutenant governor. But were they competitive?
I mean, I think they'd like to think that they've been competitive, and obviously the truth will be told this evening. So we'll see. It's 7 o'clock. I think everyone's optimistic at this point in the evening. We start to get some more returns in, and you get to the 9 p.m. part. I think some of the reality starts to set in for the Sears camp. But again, we'll see. I think if Spanberger posts a double-digit lead, then I think Republicans kind of have to take a good hard look at some of the candidates that they fielded.
I'm curious about this. President Trump last night did a tele-town hall for the Republican ticket. And while he urged Republicans to go out and vote Republican, he has not actually formally ever endorsed Winston Earl Sears. He says he didn't like Spanberger. He says he wants to see a Republican win. But, a lot of other Republicans over the years had crossed Donald Trump, and he leveled him.
Right.
But then they wound up back in the good races. How come Winston Earl Sears never got that second chance in Trump world? Was the sin that unforgivable?
I don't think so. I think Trump likes to back a winner, and I don't think she was going to be.
So it's that's
what I think that it is at the end of the day. Like you see all the people that he comes out for. Most of the time, they are kind of further down the road and will be the winners at the end of the evening.
But you're feeling more confident, obviously, about the Attorney General's race.
For sure. And Jay Jones made this a race at the end of the day with the text message controversy. Kind of an off-year election. I think Republicans were really behind the 8 ball in trying to win a lot of these elections. But I think that will actually help Republicans down ballot as well. I think a lot of Republicans turned out because of that controversy.
All right, there's a lot to discuss here. We will be talking with you guys throughout the evening here. Thanks for speaking with us now, but for now, we're going to send it back to Jim and Marina.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you. We're going to be back with much more Election Day coverage right here on Fox 5.
And be sure to stay tuned on Fox Local.
Okay, so we have that going on. We have...
As well, of course.
Zohran Mamdani, as you know, has been in a very comfortable place these past few months in the polls. Any chance Cuomo or Sliwa could pull it out?
There is no chance, I think. I think he's run a great campaign. And one of the things to take away, too, is campaigns and candidates do matter as much as the policy. And I had a couple people who I know don't think Mamdani's going to take this city in the right direction say, well, do you think maybe there'll be an upset and some whispers? But I don't see it this time around.
Do you think it's going to be closer than the polls have had it?
I think, there will be more support for Andrew Cuomo, I think, than a lot of folks want to accept and want to realize. And I think just as much as we need to take lessons from Mamdani's success, we also need to look at that. And there are voters that, supported Trump, those quiet Trump voters in 2016 that people don't necessarily focus on and listen to. But I think our own party needs to look at that and say, why did, probably at least tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of folks get behind Cuomo?
In the end, yeah. And if Mamdani does win and Dems win in New Jersey and Virginia, will this, in your minds, be a referendum on Trump, or are these primarily about local issues in local races?
Well, I think certainly the governor's races will be a referendum on Trump. I do think this is a very specific New York City race, and a couple reasons, right? I mean, not only is Mikey Sherrill also, like Spanberger, focusing on costs and prices, again, that theme, but Donald Trump is in the White House, and while I think a lot of folks give him, great leeway, fighting against giving food to the American people right now, against a federal court order. And so while I think they like some of his lawlessness and gruffness, I think at some point when he hasn't delivered on any of those promises, he's sort of losing ground here, and it absolutely is a referendum on his leadership.
So quickly before we go, if Dems pull off this hat trick, what should they do with that momentum heading into midterms?
I think what they're going to quickly want to do is distance themselves from Zohran Mamdani. And I hate to say it, but I think I hope he's successful. But option 2 is, as he's not successful, there's a great opportunity for more moderate folks to use this as the test case and say, look, you promised the world, you didn't deliver on it. Voters are frustrated. And look at these other great candidates that we do have that won in states like New Jersey, which is turning more purple, and won in Virginia. So I think that's going to be the argument, of course, and especially with 2026 in mind. Stakes are high.
Kai von Trapp, thanks so much for being here
Pleasure.
Tonight and throughout the season. We appreciate it. And we'll see you back here tomorrow, the rest of the week, for more in-depth conversation, context, and reporting right.
Okay, so I guess that's ending. we have this right here from NBC.
Progressive policies. Votes in a little bit shy of that right now. Spanberger leading the statewide count here, but this is obviously a scattering, small numbers in most of these counties, except I'll give you one of the biggest counties in the state. This is the 4th largest county in Virginia, Chesterfield County. These are big, sprawling, fast-growing suburbs right outside of Richmond. And here we've got about a quarter of the vote in right now. Now, remember, people are voting in different ways in these elections. Some people vote by mail. Some people vote early in person. Some people vote same day. The folks who vote same day, and we just, excuse me for that glitch there, the same day vote tends to be the most Republican-friendly type of vote. And what you're looking at in Chesterfield County right now, what you're looking at in Chesterfield County, if I go back in there, this is same-day vote. And that is significant because look how Chesterfield County went in last year's presidential election. Remember, Kamala Harris won Virginia. She won it by about 6 points over Donald Trump last year. This is how she was faring in Chesterfield County. Now, with some of the more Republican-friendly votes that we expect to see out of Chesterfield County now counted and now tallied up, Spanberger is leading by a wider margin. That's about a 4 or 5 point improvement for Spanberger over what was already statewide a winning margin there for Kamala Harris last year. So that's a very encouraging early sign for Spanberger. Of course, she did represent part of this area in Congress. She might have a little bit of a home field advantage there, but it is consistent so far with a lot of the expectations we had going in. Now, again, we're going to look to see if that continues elsewhere. I'm just clicking to make sure I don't miss a big one right outside D.C. right now. I've been looking for Prince William County right here and Loudoun County right here. Well, that is Loudoun County. Let me just see if we got, wow, there it is. Okay, 3/4 of the vote in Loudoun County. We just got all in one batch. This was the moment last year that the country said Trump had been elected president when we got Loudoun County in. And let's put this in some perspective here because this is the majority of the vote now in this giant county in Virginia. This is, again, one of the largest counties. This was a 16-point margin in last year's presidential election. That was a low margin for Democrats. That was an underperformance that got people's attention. One thing that happened here was Donald Trump did very well in Asian American neighborhoods and Hispanic neighborhoods in particular. This 25-point margin that you're seeing here, obviously a significant improvement for the Democrats from how they did in this county last year. This is also the same margin at 25 points that Donald Trump lost Loudoun County by in 2020, and that's when he was thumped statewide by double digits in Virginia. So we now have two powerful pieces of early evidence in the returns in Virginia, again, returning to the statewide. We've doubled what's in, 10% in right now. You see what that did to Spanberger's advantage statewide. It's now moved double digits. And again, the fact that now in two different parts of the state, major population centers, Chesterfield County and Loudoun County, you're seeing significant vote and you're seeing improvement in Spanberger's numbers over what Democrats did last year.
Let's put some perspective in here, right, Steve? Go back to Loudoun County if you can for our voters there. You got a suburb of D.C. here, right? You have the Doge cuts, you have the shutdown, and you have a Republican candidate that was not endorsed by the president. I mean, this was going to be a tough race for Republicans, for any Republican.
No, absolutely. Look, Winsome Earls here is certainly the underdog coming into this race, and I just wanted to go back there and make sure. I thought I heard a thing that we might have some more there. Yeah, she was certainly the underdog coming into this. One issue that Earl Sears leaned into and thought might get some traction for Republicans that they've had some political success with in Virginia, controversies with schools in Northern Virginia that have sort of become national news over the last few years. Controversies about transgender students using bathrooms, controversies about testing standards, these sorts of things. So I think there had been some hope on the Earl Sears campaign front that those local issues might resonate and deliver the kind of result that Republicans were able to get last year. But again, this 25 points here, again, this is the bulk of the vote that's going to, we'll have some more, but this is the bulk of it. That is a number Democrats are very comfortable getting out of Loudoun County.
All right, Steve Kornacki, we're going to check back with you. Just signal so I can see you. Throw up the smoke signal, whatever you want to do. I'll come right back to you. I want to get to our political pros tonight here on set. We have Hogan Gidley, former Trump White House Deputy Press Secretary. Ashley Atan, she's former Communications Director for Vice President Harris. Julie Roginski, Democratic strategist. And Krisha Lenzo, she's a Republican strat as well. Welcome to you all. Hogan, let's talk about Virginia right there. Look, no surprise there. Explain to our viewers, why didn't the president make an endorsement here?
I think there was some rocky relationship early on with the criticisms coming from
Earl Sears against Donald Trump, and I think he remembers stuff like that. You'll also notice when he does embrace fully a candidate, he does so strategically, and a lot of times those people perform better in the counties where he performed better. It's clear tonight that was a problem for her, but at the end of the day, what we're seeing is what Steve pointed out beautifully, which is this is a Democrat state electing a Democrat candidate who's going to be a Democrat governor. I don't think that's really news.
Yeah, Ashley, Virginia is a state made up of a lot of federal workers. As I was pointing out with Steve there, you got the DOJ cuts, you have the federal shutdown as well. A lot of those politics play into how people vote in Virginia. I want to put up a stat here that we're getting from some of the exit polls. The economy, the #1 issue at 49%. Followed here, what else do we have here? 46%. This is a different graphic than we were talking about, but we should jump to the next one about the economy in the second question, but it's okay. Anyways, the economy was the reason people were voting. What can we draw from that with President Trump?
Well, I mean, what I'm looking and what I'm seeing is that this is a 5-alarm fire for the president. Not only are people in Virginia, but in New Jersey as well, saying that the economy is not only tanking and bad, but it's their driver for turnout. I mean, NBC's poll just recently showed that the president is down on every category, every issue from corruption to cost of living to tariffs to electricity cost. He's down across the board as it relates to the economy. Hogan and I were just arguing about this back and forth. Republicans usually beat Democrats on the issue of the economy. Now NBC's poll is showing that they're down 20 points. This is a problem for the president. And I will say, I won, I was on Obama's campaign in 2008, and we won Virginia for the first time then. The interesting thing about Virginia is 3 states in 1. So we now focused on Northern Virginia, which we expect Democrats to have very high turnout, which she did. But what we're seeing now, I'm hearing from the National Governors Association as well as from the campaign, that turnout is low in the Republican counties. That part of Virginia, the smaller part, Roanoke, those counties, those turnout there is low. And that really, to me, signals a much larger problem for the president. Not only do you have people saying that the economy is bad, they're voting on the economy, but now he can't even keep his coalition together, and Republican voters are not turning out.
Maybe, but maybe he couldn't motivate his base because he wasn't backing the top of the ticket in that case. Let's talk about New Jersey, though, because a lot of the points that Ashley just brought up, it's a different story in New Jersey. It's tightening in New Jersey, right? Republicans got the closest they had come in years. You have a tight race now. Both sides spending more than $100 million. What's happening in New Jersey? Is it the taxes? Is it the cost of energy? Is it all that?
Well, let's start by saying that New Jersey should be going Republican this year if this was normal.
Because of the
normal circumstances. You have an
historically.
Historically. You have an incumbent Democratic governor who's been there for 8 years. He's not particularly popular. Since 1961 have you had a candidate of the same party succeed a 2-term governor of that party. So by all accounts, Jack Ciattarelli should be winning. However, if you look at turnout in New Jersey today, and you look at where the turnout is, it is through the roof, exceeding 2021 in places like Hudson County, in places like Essex County, in places like Middlesex County, Mercer County, all Democratic counties, all Democratic cities. And you are seeing tremendous turnout in places where Donald Trump did not do so poorly last year. And to Ashley's point, what you're seeing right now is a huge blowback against the president. There is no reason on earth why Jack Ciattarelli would not be governor tonight if Donald Trump were not in the White House.
Krisha, speaking of...
All right, it looks like the next set of polls in Virginia are closing in about roughly 20 minutes. I'm going to go grab some more water. Hopefully this continues to run while I'm gone. I shouldn't be too long.
President Trump, there were no huge rallies this time around. There were no convention halls sold out, and he had backed Ciattarelli in New Jersey. How come he didn't appear with him? I know there was virtual appearances, but that's not really the Trump style.
I would agree. It's not necessarily Trump's style. Look, we all know Donald Trump is not on the ballot, and sometimes his influence doesn't necessarily help the voting process, especially in a state.
So you think it was calculated?
He's always calculated. He knows exactly what he's doing. I think his endorsement of Jack Ciattarelli could not have been any stronger, at least what he put on Truth Social in that respect. But I think despite the fact that he's not on the ballot, I am optimistic that this will be positive for the midterms for Republicans. Look, it's an off year. There's low propensity Republican voters who are not enticed to get out to the polls, but I still have a lot of hope for Ciattarelli.
Let's talk about New York City, Hogan. The president sort of putting his thumb on the scale, at least trying to, in the last day of this campaign yesterday, saying, vote for Andrew Cuomo, trying to knock out Mamdani. Does he have any effect in this race, and could he have possibly hurt Cuomo by getting involved?
I don't think he hurts Cuomo because I think Cuomo hurts himself. He was a horrific governor. I mean, his basic campaign was, I'm here to kill old people and grab ass. He was all out of old people, so he had a big problem moving forward. When you run campaigns, it matters how you run them and it matters what issues you're running on. It is obvious that Mamdani is someone that has captivated the hearts and minds of the Democrat Party. It looks like that's which way the party is moving, into that radical left, that Marxist-based. That's what they're going to be moving forward. And while they all move and support him at this point, the question becomes, once he gets elected, and I do believe he is going to get elected, what happens moving forward? Does New York backlash after the failures and go back to like a Giuliani type, someone who can actually clean up the city? Or do they keep moving forward and doubling down on socialism and Marxism? So it's more, for me, not about tonight and more so about where the party, the Democrat Party, goes in a place like New York that is wildly Democratic. Of course, moving forward, what will his blowback be against the party should he continue to, should he fail?
When you see Mamdani, do you think he's the future of the party? I mean, I will remind you, I mean, it was just 2020 when Democrats had a reckoning with the term socialist and Bernie Sanders, and that was one of the reasons why Joe Biden won that nomination. Or do you think he has the kind of energy and he's talking about things and he has the social media strategy to electrify Democrats?
No, I mean, I think there is a commonality between Bernie, who happens to be one of the most popular Democrats in the party right now. He's not actually in our party, but he's one of the most popular, well-known Democrats. And Mamdani is because they are hyper-focused on affordability. I'm not sure what is extremist and Marxist about being able to afford your rent, being able to afford groceries, being able to live a life with dignity. And that's what Democrats are focused on. I just recently met with Ken Martin, who's the head of the DNC, and he said, listen, we're going in on all of these races. We're double downing, investing record numbers in both of these particular states, hyper-focused on affordability. We're not even talking about Donald Trump unless it's connected to the economy. And it's proven to be a winning message.
The campus protest that happened last year across college campuses all across the country didn't help Democrats. And Mamdani sort of stumbled when it came to issues on Hamas and what was happening with the war in Gaza. He had to play cleanup a couple different times. Does that worry you that he's not ready for prime time?
I'm not concerned about that at all. I mean, the reality is people aren't hyper-focused on that issue now. What they're focused on is making ends meet. They're focused on surviving. And I think that's what he's tapped into. And in fact, it's almost a playbook from Donald Trump. You know, and so the reality is it's a winning message, and we're seeing it play out right now.
But Linda Sarsour, for example, did come out and say, listen, we're holding this guy's feet to the fire. He said he wanted to dismantle the NYPD. We want that to happen. He said we want to take over means of production. We want that to happen. If he doesn't do that, if he doesn't try to arrest Bibi Netanyahu when he comes to town. So this is where the party's headed, and it seems like the full-on embrace of that has occurred.
Julia,
let me just say this. You guys hang out with Nick Fuentes, so I really don't want to hear any lectures from Republicans.
We don't hang out with Nick Fuentes, and we have always condemned it. You guys endorse the
The president had dinner with Nick Fuentes, so don't tell me you don't hang out with him. Let me just say this. I will...
Oh, it's getting fucking rowdy. NBC News, ladies and gentlemen, getting rowdy on election night. Holy crap. You hang out with Nick Fuentes. Don't lecture me. Holy crap. Dude, I have no idea what those earrings are. I'm surprised it's not weighing her head down.
Take that kind of advice from people that don't hang out with known anti-Semites like Nick Fuentes. What I will say is this. There's really not much difference between the affordability that Mikey Sherrill is talking about, the affordability that Zohran Mamdani is talking about, the affordability that Abigail Spanberger is talking about, and the affordability that Donald Trump talked about last year. Right. The difference is that he blew it. He was given a chance. And if you want to talk about socialism, let's talk about the $40 billion that we are bailing out your friends down in South America with. That's a big socialist bailout. Okay. The difference here is that you guys want to name call all you want, but you're not delivering on the promises that you made.
He calls himself a communist.
No, he calls himself a communist. He does not call himself a communist.
Guys, I love this conversation. Let's hold this up for 1 second. I want to go to Steve Kornacki real quick. Steve, I know you got a new update out of Virginia and some of the suburb counties out of D.C.
Yeah, I mean, we continue to, it's really kind of pouring in right now, and the news is very good if you're a Democrat and a supporter of Abigail Spanberger. We started to tell the story of Loudoun County, again, one of the largest in the state. We had 3/4 of the vote in the last time we checked in. We now have basically all the vote, and you can see, in fact, since the last time we checked in, Spanberger has improved her position here. This is now about a 29-point margin. So again, compare that to last year in the presidential election. This county last year was a 16-point margin for Democrats. That was considered a significant underperformance for Democrats. Now at 29 points, this is actually better. how Spanberger is faring right now in Loudoun County than in 2020. Joe Biden had won this by 25 points. That was kind of a high watermark for Democrats. Spanberger has now exceeded that, again, with just about all the vote in here, leading by 29 points. That is incredibly good news for Democrats because they didn't want to see slippage up here in the big population center. We also now have a significant amount of vote in, a little bit more than a quarter, in the city of Virginia Beach, largest city in Virginia, about 450,000 people here. Now, you can see Spanberger is leading and it's tight. But again, Virginia Beach is the kind of place that Republicans must win if they're going to have a chance statewide in Virginia. And really, they've got to win it somewhere in that high single digits. You know, Glenn Youngkin, when he was elected 4 years ago, he won Virginia Beach by 8 points. And again, with a little more than a quarter of the vote in, you see Spanberger is leading this by just under 3 points. So again, that's what Democrats want to be seeing there. We continue to look at Chesterfield County, south of Richmond. Again, this is one of the largest counties in Virginia. Spanberger has improved her position since the last time we checked in here. So she continues to overperform. And again, how about this? This is, again, the biggest in the state. Fairfax County, we've got a third of the vote in. Now, this is right outside Washington, D.C. Massive, densely populated. You're looking at core Democratic territory. You talk about federal employees, shutdown implications. You're going to find an awful lot of them in Fairfax County. But again, just take a look here. Core Democratic, but it was 35 points Democratic last year. With a third of the vote in, you're now looking at a 47-point margin for Spanberger over Earl Sears. Is Earl Sears overperforming anywhere? Take a look at some of these Republican counties here. Now, this is a small county. It is a Republican county, and I'm showing it to you because it's one of the counties where we do have all of the vote in. And again, just take a look here. Earl Sears winning this by about 9 points. Donald Trump won this same county by 14 points last year. Earl Sears needed to match the Trump number and really exceed it, because remember, Trump lost statewide. Here she is in a Republican county where we have all of the vote in, falling short. We've seen a few other counties where this has happened. So Spanberger is exceeding Democratic levels from 2020 and 2024 in the biggest suburban counties in the state. She is leading in Virginia Beach. And so far, the Republican counties that have reported.
So just to give a quick look at what it looked like earlier when the Louisville crash happened. So, look, I don't think anybody survived. If they did, then wow, that's like a miracle. But based on the scenes I'm looking at here, like I don't think anybody survived that. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But like it went up in a ball of fire. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Nobody knows who's running, even the people in VA. Look, I'm kind of just along for the ride until the New York City polls close, and then we're really going to see what happens tonight, because it affects a lot more than just New York City. It's going to be crazy. It is going to be crazy. I really hope Mamdani or whatever the hell does not win. I hope Mandarin Buffet does not win, because we are all screwed.
You have Earl Sears not quite even reaching the Trump level from last year. So if you're a Democrat, you went into this tonight looking at polls that had Spanberger not just ahead, but ahead by comfortable margins. And everything we've seen in the returns now, with 25% of the vote in statewide, is consistent with that.
All right, Steve, thank you. For more special election night coverage ahead, former New York City mayoral candidate Brad Lander joins me next. We'll talk about his decision to team up with Mamdani. That's
days from 12 to 4 on NBC News Now.
We are back now with the mayoral race right here in New York City. Polls set to close in a little over an hour. And joining us tonight here live, a man who ran for the mayor this year and has since endorsed Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani. New York City Comptroller Brad Lander, we thank you so much for joining us live. Brad, you ran against Mamdani. Explain to our viewers who are not from New York City how he was able to beat people like you, beat people like Andrew Cuomo, and possibly become the next mayor.
Yeah, so first he focused like a laser on affordability and, got people excited with some simple ideas. We're going to freeze your rent, make up the buses fast and free, give universal child care. People got excited about that because they're desperate about the cost of living. And then, look,
they sound like great ideas to some people. You're the comptroller. Can you actually pay for it?
Well, he's going to have to get Albany and the governor to put in the money. But she said she wants to get to universal child care as well. So, yeah, governing is, what we do in prose, and campaigning is what we do in poetry.
So are you saying you don't believe him, or?
No, I mean, I'm hopeful. I mean, look, I cross-endorsed and then endorsed him in the general because I believe those are the right ideas. And I hope the governor will work with him, deliver the money New York City needs, because parents are desperate to have their 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds someplace they can afford.
President Trump went on 60 Minutes. He called him a communist, which he's not. He's a socialist. He said yesterday, vote for Andrew Cuomo. Do you think there's a President Trump effect in this race?
Look, he said today that any Jew like me, I'm the highest-ranking Jewish elected official in New York City government. He said any Jew that supports Zohran Mamdani is stupid. He doesn't get to decide how Jews make up their mind in this race. And yes, New Yorkers don't want Donald Trump telling us who to vote for. We don't want Stephen Miller telling us who to vote for. We don't want Elon Musk telling us who to vote for. We don't want the president sending troops here. We don't want him taking our money. And I think this will be a moment when New Yorkers stand up together.
You brought up your faith. I do want to ask you, Mamdani has been criticized and called out in his campaign for not condemning the phrase globalize intifada and for dodging questions about Hamas disarmament in a debate. As a Jewish American, does that give you pause? Do you know who you're getting into business with?
Let's be clear. He's condemned Hamas and the attacks of October 7th. He never said globalize the intifada. And then after listening to Jews talk about what it means to us, he started discouraging people from saying it.
He has had some hiccups, and it has been unclear, to be fair.
But look, on a primary night, he said, I'm going to go out and meet Jewish New Yorkers. He came to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services with me. He's talked to dozens and dozens of groups. He's going to work hard every day to keep Jewish New Yorkers and all New Yorkers safe.
He wants the corporate tax to be on par with New Jersey. That's exactly the reason why they're fighting in New Jersey right now in that governor's race. Is that a good idea? Again, you're the comptroller.
Well, it's really about what you're getting. I think if we increase the corporate tax rate in order to provide child care for 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds, then we'll see that in productivity, and employers will see it because their workers are desperate for child care.
How realistic is it politically that we're going to see free buses in New York? I know we're trying to guess a little bit here, but
there's nothing that's free. And, free comes with a price tag, and that comes in the price tag of taxes. It comes in the price tag of budget expenses. So, even if he's...
Just look at what has happened here in Canada with free this and free that, free everything. We're paying out the ass in taxes. So yes, nothing is ever free.
Let them see where the funding comes from. New York City is also facing a budget crisis, as is New York State. So if he's going to get any of these free programs implemented, he's going to have to go to Albany with his hat in his hand looking for money. And they may not want to get behind free buses, particularly for a governor next year who's facing her own reelection.
Right. So we'll see about that. Maybe if he could bring it down, I think New Yorkers will appreciate it. Can we talk a little bit about national interest in this? Governor Abbott of Texas saying that anybody who moves to Texas after this, he's going to place the tariffs on. I have a feeling that's not my understanding of how tariffs work. But really, what type of implication does this have for the Democratic Party, as the former governor suggests?
Well, there is a real internal battle going on with the Democratic Party. And you've seen that with some major party figures who didn't come out and endorse the winner of the Democratic primary, Zohran Mamdani. There is some soul searching that's going to have to go on after the results are counted. Is the Democratic Party, a socialist party? Is it moving that far to the left? Or if it's Cuomo is the victor, then it's more of a moderate, centrist type of approach. But the one thing they've all united around is, that President Trump is the real enemy in the room. And you've seen that with folks who haven't endorsed Zohran. They've kind of pivoted and pointed the finger at the White House as that's where the real enemy is. So I think you'll see some of that language in the weeks and months to come. But once this election is over, we're already looking at 2026 and the midterms, and that'll take up a lot of the oxygen out of the room.
And I have the benefit of a professor of political science to ask this. People throw around the word socialism a lot, right? And really, like when I look at schools, roads, the police department, the fire department, or soybean farmers getting bailed out, there's a lot of socialism that I see. that seems to be in the works. How fair is it to use that term, and what do you think is the most responsible way to use that term? Because it used to be an insult, right? Trump would insult people saying, "Oh, that person's a socialist." Now that you have a candidate who says, "I'm a socialist,"
and how it
seems like
affected their vote. And again, President Trump, he wasn't in this race. He didn't endorse Earl Sears. He didn't even mention her name. It was a very tough race for Republicans there. Too early to call in the Attorney General's race so far. And Steve, before you go, because I want to talk to two great political minds in about 30 seconds, explain to our viewers why we're just talking Virginia and we haven't talked about New Jersey or New York City or California yet.
Yeah, Tom, it's certainly not for lack of desire on my part, but in 6 minutes, the polls are going to close in New Jersey, and this thing is going to start to light up like a Christmas tree at 11 p.m. Eastern. That's going to happen out in California. 9 p.m. That's going to happen in New York City. So, yeah, we got a storyline to follow here, the AG's race, but in a few minutes, that governor's race in New Jersey, which we expect to be the closer one and where Republicans think they have a chance, is going to take center stage.
Steve Kornacki, thank you. We got about 3 minutes left. We got two of my favorites here. Moderator of Meet the Press, Kristen Welker.
Okay,
NBC
so I
News
find this absolutely hilarious, right? We're watching NBC. They have the main panel stream, and then they have that guy who's doing like all the actual election stuff. They just have a stream of him off in the corner doing work. they just have him off in the corner doing his little paperwork, and he's on his phone and stuff. Like, why would anybody want to watch this? Why would anybody want to watch this one? I guess if you're not interested in the propaganda news anchors or whatever the hell you want to call these people, but I just find it so funny. Look at him. Look at him. He's off in the corner there, just on his phone, writing down stuff on paper. This is great. This is fantastic. And they're just playing music over it. They don't even have anything actually playing over it. That's great. And then look, just over here, exact same room.
Smart strategists on both sides of the aisle who say that may be the biggest takeaway for 2026. Can I tell you the question that I still have on Virginia, though? What's the margin going to be? Because that's going to tell us a lot about, I think, where this goes. And I spoke with one Republican who said, listen, if this is a smash in Virginia, a smash in Jersey, and Mamdani wins big, on the economy and on that kind of messaging, President Trump may have to think about how he's messaging on the economy if it's not resonating with some of these more moderates.
We're watching some of the celebrations at the Spanberger Watch Party. Kristen, real quick to you, the president ran on the economy. He won on the economy. He's delivered on immigration. He's delivered on crime to his voters. But the economy is the big unknown.
The economy is still the top issue for voters, Tom. And he, by his own admission, said he got elected because he was going to bring down grocery prices. If you look at the prices at the grocery store, a lot of prices have gone up, from meat to bacon, just to name a few. And so I do think that there's going to be a hard look inside the White House at how they are handling grocery prices, the prices that people are paying, inflation, and of course, the backdrop to all of that, the president's tariff policy.
All right, Hallie, we got about 40 seconds left.
Lay it on me.
Give me 20 seconds. What do we expect tonight? What are we watching tonight from your coverage with Kristen over here?
Three big things. Number one, margins. What are they if, in fact, the Democrats do end up pulling it out? And obviously, any surprises. Two, this messaging on the economy, affordability. And three, what you've been talking about with Steve, the Trump coalition. Do Latinos, do non-white voters in New Jersey, non-college educated voters in New Jersey, do they go for Chitterelli? Do they flip? Do they go for Mikey Sherrill here? And what about those low propensity voters, folks who don't turn out? Some interesting numbers we're seeing in the exits there, Tom.
Yeah.
Let's see how that plays out.
And the big unknown, Prop 50 in California. It's going to be a huge vote. That could change the entire direction of Congress. What are you going to say, Kristen?
It could.
20 seconds.
Gavin Newsom says it's going to pass. He says it's going to be a big night for Democrats. We'll have to see.
All right, and we are just 2 minutes away from our next major poll closing in New Jersey. Hallie and Kristen pick up our special election night.
All right, well, they go to commercial break or whatever. We could watch this guy in the corner of the room doing whatever the hell he's doing. It looks like we have an interesting night ahead. I would say that this Virginia race, is it already over? I don't know. Have they already decided that? I'm not entirely sure. I'm just going with the flow on this one. I found it so funny that the panel just started going after each other because of people they may or may not have interacted with or had dinner with or whatever the case was there. That is funny. Anyway, we already covered this, but yeah, some crazy stuff that a conservative MP resigned, probably got the boot. But, hey man, not sure if he's going to cross the aisle, remain independent. He probably will join the Liberals, but it's hard to say at the end of the day. This week, for Canadian politics, Parliament, they will just be hammering home in question period the budget. That's the only thing we are going to hear is the budget, the budget. That's pretty much all we've ever heard for the past month now is the budget. And it's not going to go away anytime soon. They want to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on just absolute insanity. Just craziness. At a time where people can't afford anything, they are going to willingly put the country further in debt, forcing the people to pay more in taxes, while cutting taxes for 22 million Canadians. Oh yeah, doing such a great job. Thank you. And we have the NDP, who are probably going to vote for the budget. And if they abstain, that's pretty much just as bad as voting for it. At this point, it's like, maybe the 51st state wouldn't be so bad. I'm just saying, like, to all the people who wanted to kick up a big shit about it, I don't know, man. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad. We don't have to deal with the bloated ass government that we currently have in Parliament. That, God, they're just a bunch of idiots. Our Parliament is a nightmare. It's an absolute joke. Imaginary tax? No, that's what the Liberals want you to believe. They want you to believe that it's imaginary, but it's very real. They're forcing companies to stop using single-use plastics and things of that nature, which causes things to be more expensive. We pay for a lot of fairy tale taxes. Yeah, that's very true. The climate grift is very real and alive here. Very real and alive. Just as real and alive as our friend here on TV with the pen in his mouth, working very hard to get these election results. This guy might be the hardest working person in that entire room, and he probably doesn't get paid enough. Honestly, yeah, you're probably right. It would probably become a lot more bloated. Yeah. And I don't even know how Canada would realistically convert because our political system is just so incredibly different. And yeah, I don't know. It would be like knocking down all of Parliament and rebuilding it. Not even rebuilding it, just like adopting all of the American policies. That would be a crazy one. That would be a wild one. Mother Duck replaced Mother Goose. Let's see what's going on here. And honestly, Canada would probably become a Democrat state, so we would have to pay the carbon tax again anyway. They would reintroduce the full carbon tax back into Canada. I know we still have the industrial one, but they would implement the full-fledged carbon tax back into Canada.
Burger is doing even better than Democrats have done lately in a lot of these places. Chiefly, here we go. All the vote is in now in Loudoun County up here. This is one of the biggies in the state. Spanberger's going to win this by 29 points. You know, big bedroom communities, suburban, exurban area just outside Washington, D.C. The key here, when you look at this statewide margin, statewide tally, and you ask about the margin, what we've seen happen in the last few minutes is all the red you see, sort of rural areas, Southwest Virginia, South Side, that have started to fill in. They've allowed Earl Sears to chip away a bit at that statewide lead. But I want you to keep in mind, so much of the population is right around here. And you go into a county like Prince William County, there's still 150,000 votes that are going to come out of this county. Look at Spanberger's lead right there. You can imagine what that's going to do to her statewide total. This is the biggest of the big. Fairfax County, we don't even have half the vote in here right now. And Abigail Spanberger, with a 50-point lead. So you expect her, I think, certainly to maintain and maybe even build on that lead a bit. And the suspense here in Virginia really is going to be, does she have a big enough pad that she can carry over the top the beleaguered Democratic candidate for Attorney General? And you can see that one is a squeaker right now. Jay Jones with those text messages, those inflammatory text messages that came to light. He's barely up right now in the statewide tally. So that one of the reasons why that Spanberger total becomes so important. And I just wanted to check in because the polls closed in New Jersey, and we did just get a whole bunch of votes here statewide. Look at that. More than 200,000 votes just came in. This is a big one. Now, this is interesting. So this is Hudson County. We're talking about directly across from New York City, the Hudson River. You're talking about a bunch of mid-sized, Jersey City is the biggest city here, and a bunch of mid-sized cities with very large Hispanic populations. Union City, New Jersey, West New York, North Bergen. This is significant because this is one of the counties, one of the biggest Trump surprises in the entire country in 2024 was in this county. He cut his margin. He still lost it, but he was closer than anybody thought they'd ever see a Republican come in this county. Well, you can see tonight with 40% of the vote now, we think this is the early and mail vote, so this is probably going to be more friendly, a little bit more friendly to Democrats than the same-day vote, but a 58-point margin here right off the bat for Mikey Sherrill. Again, you take a look here. This was 28 last year. This was an incredible performance for a Republican. One of the major questions in this race in New Jersey, and one of the major questions for American politics coming out of the 24 election, was the Hispanic inroads that Donald Trump made. Could another Republican take them and replicate them without Trump on the ballot? Here's a test tonight. Jack Ciattarelli in Hudson County. We got 40% of the vote. Again, I think a lot of this is going to be early vote and mail-in vote. So we'll see if the same day changes the complexion of this vote at all. But you're seeing a 58-point advantage here from Mikey Sherrill early. So Ciattarelli not generating that Trump-level support here. Just taking a quick look. Bergen County, big classic suburban county here. This is one that we can show you. In fact, last year, Kamala Harris won this by 3 points. We just got in one big batch here. So again, you can expect this is early vote. This is mail vote coming in right now. Sherrill matching that. We take a look down here, Ocean County. This is one of the biggest Republican plurality producing counties in the United States of America that you're looking at right here. Look at this margin Donald Trump got. Look how many people live in Ocean County. A lot of Republican counties around the country are small and they are rural. Ocean County is very big for a Republican county. This is an area where Jack Ciattarelli wants to absolutely run up the score. Now, again, you're looking at early vote. You're looking at vote by mail here. The Republicans are hoping that on the same day today, they're going to get massive turnout to be more Republican friendly. Ciattarelli's going to need that. He doesn't need 27 points out of Ocean County. He needs 40 points out of Ocean County. So let's see as the same day comes in if it moves in that direction. We just got one more here in South Jersey. Again, Gloucester County. Well, let's see. This is early. This is a low number right now for Ciattarelli, but again, same day to come in. So let's see if he gets that up there. But so far already in New Jersey, more than 10% of the vote is in, and you see the tally right there.
All right, it looks like our good friend has been given the boot back to the corner where he's printing off papers and...
Absolutely.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Every time as we're talking to see, this is Passaic County right here, and I can't wait to see that one fill in. No results, but I
feel like I should just pull up the other stream, but this one's too funny.
Just show you
Donald Trump won this last year. You ask anyone in New Jersey if they ever thought they'd see a Republican presidential candidate carry Passaic again. This was an unthinkable result. 40% Hispanic in this county. We'll get a very interesting result when this comes in.
All right. When you hear the intense music, that's how you know he's done. He's been kicked off to the side again. We have ABC here. I think they're probably just as bad as NBC. So all these three-letter organizations, they all suck.
Threatening to withhold billions of dollars in infrastructure spending, threatening to shut down that critical gateway project that would be helping New Jersey commuters. But what we've seen both of those races do on the Democratic side is, yes, this is an anti-Trump message, but yes, they're also very much leaning into economic issues, as we've been talking about. And Lindsay, our new ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll finds that 6 in 10 Americans disapprove of how President Trump is handling tariffs and the economy.
All right, Selena, thanks so much. For more now, let's bring in our Trump campaign senior advisor, Danielle Alvarez. And so, Danielle, let's start with the results that we see in Virginia with Spanberger winning there. She, of course, was very anti-Trump. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that the reality is the fact that we are talking about the way that Republicans are fighting in these very blue states is a testament to the way that the political landscape has changed. In New Jersey, for example, where they do voter registration based on party affiliation, we know based on data from August 2025 that Democrats have a voter registration advantage of about 160,000. Of course, we don't have that same data in Virginia, who doesn't do voter registration based on party advantage. But when we do comparisons, for example, what would be fair would be a comparison to 2017. We can see, that it makes sense that Abigail Spanberger performed very well. Of course, when we look at ABC's exit polling, we see that the economy was the #1 issue. Abigail Spanberger spent a lot of time talking about the economy. We did, however, see in the ABC exit polling that they did not support, about half of voters did not support transgenderism. That was Winsome Sears' focus. Of course, that fell short.
Yeah, affordability is certainly a huge concern for many Americans. How do you think that that has impacted results so far?
I am not sure.
Yeah, look, affordability is impacting everybody. It is expensive to live. And sadly, it's expensive here in Canada because of government policies that tax the ever-living hell out of people and businesses. And for some reason, the government's like, we'll give you tax credits. That's what you guys want, right? That's what you guys want. You'll save money. Oh, we'll feed your kid for you. Don't worry. Nothing strange about that, right? The government feeding your kids. Take a look at this. We have three different... Oh, that's a voting station. I'm like, what is this back rooms going on here? We have 3 different rallies going on here. The Spanberger rally is huge. It is massive. There's a lot of people there. I think it's quite obvious which way that place is leaning. I don't know. Just based on that, it's hard to tell though. Anyway, I'm gonna look for a better live stream in the meantime here, as we're taking a look at this. Our good friend in the corner. Oh Christ. Agenda Free TV is going to be live. Shout out.
The evening progresses. A live look at the Abigail Spanberger watch party. A live look. We will take her victory speech live as soon as we see her step up, and we'll do the same for Winston, for Winston's concession speech also, once we see her step up. So we're also watching a few other live looks across the country. Jack Ciattarelli, he's the Republican vying for New Jersey's governor's seat. That's the one remaining governor's race of the night. There were two we were tracking all night, Virginia and New Jersey. Virginia, now been called. Looks like some of our friends over there at Fox 5 New York might be getting ready for a live hit. We'll let you know whenever we see any of these victory or these concession speeches, whether it be Virginia, New Jersey, or later on in the evening when we start getting results in from New York City's mayoral election. Let's talk about the government shutdown. Once the clock strikes midnight tonight, it will be a record-breaking 36th day as far as the government shutdown goes. Throughout the course of this shutdown, we've been checking in with our friend, Fox News radio correspondent Ryan Schmelz. He tracks Congress for Fox Radio. Ryan, it's election night. How do tonight's results impact something like an off-year election, like what we're seeing tonight?
It's kind of hard to know because I think it really depends on the race and a lot of other factors too. I think one thing that stands out about Winsome Earl-Seals and her campaign was that President Trump was not very active when it came to her campaign. He was pretty active with Jack Ciattarelli's campaign, and Abigail Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill both got a lot of involvement from President Barack Obama towards them, who is considered to be probably the top surrogate right now for Democrats. But, you know, a lot of different Republicans you talk to and Democrats on the Hill, some might say it is a referendum on President Trump. Others might say, look, these are states that lean blue, especially New Jersey, especially New York City. And Virginia, purple state, but tends to lean more blue. These were races that Republicans were already the underdog in. So whether or not it was, you know, a true referendum or if this is going to make any difference in how things are on Capitol Hill or how Republicans and Democrats act nationwide, you know, that still remains to be seen. But the one race that I think Republicans have really zeroed in on was not the New Jersey governor's race and not the Virginia governor's race. It was the New York City mayor's race. And Republicans on Capitol Hill have consistently tried to tie Zoran Mamdani to just about every single Democrat they can and try to make him the new face of the Democratic Party because they feel that making him the face of the Democratic Party is a losing message.
You know, a record-breaking shutdown. I do want to talk with you more about today's election, but we can't bury the lead here. A record-breaking shutdown. Why is this shutdown lasting longer than any other in our history?
It's hard to figure out. You know, Democrats have picked their battle, and it is the Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. It's also these provisions that would prevent President Trump and the Trump administration from cutting spending that's approved by Congress. Democrats have decided to ultimately use the filibuster to prevent this bill from being passed, and they have not come off of that stance to this date just yet. And Republicans, in many ways, have refused to cave on this. They feel that they've given Democrats a very good deal, which is essentially an extension of Biden-era spending levels for a few months so that they can work on the actual appropriations process and buy some more time there. But Democrats have not budged on these tax credits, and neither side has been really willing to give any wiggle room to this point. Now, this was the first week probably where it seemed like the vibe on Capitol Hill was trending in the right direction in terms of some type of deal in the near future. You've got some rank and file Republicans and Democrats having conversations right now. So it seems like this is probably the most progress we've made in some time, really since the shutdown began.
You know, Ryan, today the Senate rejected for the 14th time the same funding package that was previously passed by the House. 14 times, Ryan. What has been the point of these votes if they aren't returning results?
Well, Majority Leader John Thune simply just said we're going to keep putting this bill on the floor and we're going to dare Democrats to keep the government shut down. And Democrats have taken that dare, and they voted this down every single time, except for three senators who caucus with Democrats who've consistently voted for this bill that would reopen the government.
Oh, God, look who it is. It's fucking Bernie Sanders. Polls about to close soon in New York.
Senator, if in fact Mr. Mamdani is successful, I wonder what you would like him to work on day one. What should his day one priority be? As Hallie was just noting, he has laid out a long agenda, which includes free public transportation, government-owned supermarkets, government child care. What should be issue one for him?
Well, look, this guy has run a brilliant campaign, and I have every reason to believe he's going to do a great job as mayor if he wins. So I'll let him decide what his priorities are. But I would simply say that right now in Vermont, New York City, all over this country, we have a child care system which is absolutely broken at a time when psychologists tell us that the years 0 through 4, Kristen, are the most important for intellectual and emotional development for human beings. So making sure that every kid in this country, in New York City, gets the proper early childhood care that they need, to me, is enormously important. And New York can set the example for the rest of the country.
All right, Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you so much for being with us on this election night. We will continue to watch the returns. We really appreciate your perspective, Senator. Thank you. We do want to get out to New Jersey now, where those polls just closed. NBC's Stephanie Gosk is at Mikey Sherrill's headquarters in New Brunswick, and NBC's Julie Sirkin is at Jack Ciattarelli's headquarters in Bridgewater. Thank you both for being here. Stephanie, let me start with you. What is the mood there? How optimistic are they?
Kristen, the mood's good. I mean, you saw those numbers coming in. People here are getting very excited. You know, it was interesting listening to Bernie Sanders talk about Zohran Mamdani and then compare that just over the Hudson River to the candidate for governor for the Democratic Party here in this state, Mikey Sherrill, former Navy pilot, federal prosecutor, moderate Democrat who flipped a red county in 2018 to go to Congress. She is a very different kind of candidate. I had a chance to talk to her today, and I said, so which brand is it? Is it the Mamdani brand, or is it the Mikey Sherrill brand? And she said that one of the things you may be able to take away from this election is which brand works better. But one of the things they are watching very closely here, and they have reason to feel good about it right now, is turnout and enthusiasm. And second to that is what is driving people to the polls. And there's a number that you should focus on from the exit polls, that 38% of people said they came to the polls because they were opposing Trump. Now that's important because Mikey Sherrill has tied this campaign and her criticism of her Republican opponent, Jack Ciattarelli, to Donald Trump, accusing Donald Trump of making the affordability so difficult in this state. That's the principal issue for people in New Jersey. On the flip side, you have the Republican candidate saying, well, hang on, there's been a Democrat at the governor's office in this state for 8 years, and Donald Trump has been in office for 11. So they really do believe in a lot of ways that their success tonight hinges on whether people believe that the lack of affordability in this state is because of Donald Trump and because Jack Ciattarelli is attached to him, that they should vote for Mikey Sherrill, Kristen.
Well, and Steph, you take me perfectly over to Julie, who's at Jack Ciattarelli's campaign headquarters, because this has been the challenge for Jack Ciattarelli. He has, in some instances, embraced President Trump. He has not campaigned with President Trump, even though there were some telecalls that took place in the closing hours of this campaign. And this is really the first referendum on how voters feel about President Trump, clearly looming large over this race in New Jersey, Julie.
Absolutely, Kristen, and that is exactly the question that I asked Jack Ciattarelli yesterday when we were at a bar in Totowa, New Jersey at 10:30 in the morning, where the Guinness was flowing. As a Jersey girl, only in New Jersey could you see that the day before the election. And he told me my opponent wants to make this race all about Donald Trump, putting some daylight between him and the president that he has backed this time around, different than his last two runs for governor, and also a president that has clearly endorsed him. The issues, as Stephanie laid out, are affordability. New Jersey has some of the highest property taxes in the country. I heard that from voters on both sides of the aisle, both Democrats and Republicans, telling me they love New Jersey, but they feel like they are getting priced out. They might have to move because they can't afford to live here. Sherrill has promised to freeze electricity prices. A Republican voter today telling me, what good does that do? The prices are already so high. But certainly Ciattarelli feeling like he can ride in some ways the president's coattails. As you heard Steve Kornacki lay out all night, Trump was able to really eat into the margins as far as blue states states goes, in New Jersey, probably the most of any. You see the energy in the room behind me. The polls just closed. They just started letting people in here. There are a lot of MAGA hats. There are a lot of Make New Jersey Great Again hats. Ciattarelli's campaign feeling positive, but today is all about turnout for him, not only in Somerset County, where I am right now, also in Ocean County, a red county, as you heard Steve talking about there, but also Passaic. That's where I was yesterday, talking to primarily Latino voters, where Ciattarelli has focused a large portion of his time during this campaign, knowing that he needs to win over those voters, just like the president did in November, in order to have a shot at winning this race. One of the advantages that Ciattarelli has here, similar to Spanberger in Virginia, he can present himself as the change candidate. Phil Murphy has been in office for 2 terms. Ciattarelli can say that Sherrill will be a continuation of that, and hopefully in his mind he'll win tonight because of it.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thank you so much. We'll continue to check back in with you throughout the night. Let's get back to NBC News Chief Data Analyst Steve Kornacki, who has some new insights into the results so far in New Jersey, and Republican Jack Ciattarelli. What do you have, Steve?
Okay, so what we have, Kristen, is a quarter of the vote statewide, and you're looking at this and you're saying, wow, Mikey Sherrill is absolutely clobbering Jack Ciattarelli. Well, what we don't have yet anywhere in the state are the returns for votes that were cast today at the polls, which we expect to be more Republican-friendly than the votes that were cast by mail or that were cast early in the early voting process. So what's been reported out in these counties is some combination of the vote by mail, which we know to be generally a very Democratic favorable type of vote, and early in person. So essentially what you're seeing here is the best that it's going to be for Mikey Sherrill in the counties that have reported so far. So I'll give you an example. Take a look down here. This is Burlington County. So you're talking about, it's geographically big, but a lot of the population is sort of along the Delaware River in here, outside of Philadelphia, Philadelphia's suburbs, bedroom communities. Okay, so about half the vote is in, and Sherrill's winning this by 31 points. That is mail vote. That is early in-person vote. What's now going to happen is the rest of the vote's going to fill in. It's going to be the vote that was cast today, Election Day. What does Ciattarelli need to do here? He probably doesn't need to win Burlington County, but I can show you this was 17 points last year, and it was 7 points when Jack Ciattarelli nearly won the governorship 4 years ago. So the same-day vote, Ciattarelli, you can see, is going to have to win it by a very big margin, and he's got to get it down at least to this level where it was 4 years ago. So we're going to be keeping an eye. What does that same-day vote look like when it comes in Burlington County? Is Ciattarelli winning it by a wide margin? You're going to see that up here in Bergen County. We have all the early vote. We have the vote by mail-in Bergen County. That's a massive lead for Mikey Sherrill. That lead is going to come down as the same-day vote comes in. How far? Well, it was a 3-point race in the presidential race last year. This is a county, if Jack Ciattarelli is going to have a chance tonight, I think he wants this county to be red by the end of the night. So again, as that same-day vote comes in, he's got to win it by a big margin, and I think that's the benchmark for him right there. We're seeing it, look, this is a small county right here, but this should be, by the end of the night for Ciattarelli, if he's going to have a chance, this should be a double-digit Republican county. Again, this is the vote by mail. This is the early vote. This is as good as it gets for Sherrill. The story of the rest of the night in Hunterdon and all of these other counties where you're seeing vote so far is going to be Ciattarelli-friendly vote. How friendly is that vote? Is it enough to hit some of the benchmarks that I'm laying out for him? That's what the governorship in New Jersey is going to hinge on. And by the way, we don't see it yet. I just want to tell you, I am really looking for the results out of this county. This is a big suburban county here. You've got a mix of wealthy suburban towns. You've got some blue-collar towns as well. Donald Trump won here by 3 points. Typically, this is a key county for Republicans if they're going to have a chance statewide. The twist in this county and why I think it's so important is Morris County is what Mikey Sherrill represents in Congress. She was the first Democrat to flip the district here in a long time when she won it in 2018. Is she getting an overperformance in her incredibly crucial home county tonight? Because this is one where Ciattarelli cannot afford to underperform.
And Steve, just very quickly, just to remind people, this is the third time Jack Ciattarelli has run for governor. Last time he got within inches, 3 points. But he's got to outperform what he did last. Last time he had a fairly strong showing, but it's got to be even stronger than that.
Yeah, and what's interesting, Kristen, is, I'll put them both up here side by side so you can see. Donald Trump lost this state by about 6 points last year, and that was for Trump, that was a big improvement from 2020. And as you mentioned, Ciattarelli only lost it by 3 points. The one thing to keep in mind is they did this with completely different coalitions. Okay, so I was just talking about, Morris County, Somerset County, Morris County, places like this. Chitterelli was getting big improvements over Trump. And then Trump fell the bottom fell out for Trump last year. Trump made his gains in the urban, non-white parts of New Jersey. Between those two coalitions, the suburbs where Chitterelli did well and the cities where Trump did well, there's a winning coalition for Republicans if you can combine them. That is elusive. That's been elusive for Republicans in modern times. If Chitterelli could pull that off tonight, he would win.
All right, we will check back in with you in just a few minutes, Steve. But now we do want to turn to our next guest. Joining me now is New York Representative and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Leader Jeffries, thank you so much for joining us on this election night.
Here we go.
Good evening. Great to be with you.
It's great to have you. I'm here with my colleague, Hallie Jackson. We've got a couple of questions for you. We have to start in your home city right here of New York. You did, in the home stretch, endorse the Democratic nominee, Zohran Mamdani. As you know, President Trump endorsed Andrew Cuomo overnight. Governor Cuomo telling me today—
Get the sombreros out.
Yes, that's going to earn him a few more of the Curtis Sliwa votes. Do you think that Mamdani can have a victory tonight?
Yes, Zohran's going to be the next mayor of the city of New York. He's run a relentlessly focused campaign on affordability. The cost of living is way too high in New York City, in the communities that I represent, and all across the city of New York. That, in fact, is the case we know throughout the country. And of course, Donald Trump hasn't kept his promise to lower costs. In fact, he said he was going to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down. They're going up all across the country. Grocery prices up, housing costs up, childcare costs up, utility prices through the roof. And now, as we've been working our way through this Trump shutdown in Washington, D.C., Republicans want to increase health care premiums on tens of millions of Americans because of their refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credit. So I think Zohran's going to win, and it's going to be incumbent upon all of us in the city of New York to make sure that he is as successful a mayor as he can possibly be.
So, Leader Jeffries, it's Hallie Jackson, by the way. Thanks for being with us. Let me ask you this, because you've also suggested that Zohran Mamdani is not the face of the future of the Democratic Party. And there are those around him who think you're wrong on that, who think he potentially has real appeal beyond simply New York City. We could talk all day about how special and unique New York is. I get it. It's not a place where you necessarily will extrapolate nationally if you're a Democrat. But can you talk a little bit more about that piece of it and what through lines you see now that you might be talking with your conference about come 2026 ahead of the midterms? If, you've seen already Abigail Spanberger sail to a win, if Mamdani comes out big in New York, if Mikey Sherrill's able to pull it out in Jersey.
Well, it's my expectation that Mikey Sherrill is going to be the next governor of the state of New Jersey, that we're going to win the statewide races in Pennsylvania. We're going to crush it in California. We've seen Democrats actually win statewide in Georgia. And of course, Abigail Spanberger coasted to victory. And it looks like every single Democrat on the statewide ticket in the Commonwealth of Virginia is also going to win. This is a rout for Democrats all across the country. Now, as House Democrats, what we've said from the very beginning of this year is that we need to relentlessly focus on driving down the high cost of living and fixing our broken healthcare system that Donald Trump and Republicans are making worse by the day. And as long as we stay on these kitchen table pocketbook issues, while of course addressing the extremism that Donald Trump and Republicans continue to unleash on the American people, what we're seeing tonight is going to be replicated a year from now when Democrats take back control of the House of Representatives.
You think they could do the Senate as well? You just called it a rout tonight. It sounds like you think they'll flip the House. You think they could do the same for the Senate?
I think the Senate is going to be a big surprise a year from now, particularly if the trend lines continue to move in our direction. Keep in mind, listen, we've won every statewide race that has been held this year, starting with the Wisconsin State Supreme Court race in April. We've won all of the high-profile special elections, beginning in a state Senate seat in Iowa in January that Donald Trump had just won a few months prior by 21 points. And so what we're seeing tonight—
All right, Mr. Sombrero, I think I've had enough of him. Let's take a look at I would say, pretty reliable channel, Agenda Free TV. The odd thing here or there that's not too agenda free, but for the most part, as agenda free, I guess, as you can get, if that's even possible. Let's see what's going on here.
Analysts say they're saying the numbers have been looking pretty good for Democrats so far. Well, they've been talking about Virginia. Also, the Virginia House, what is it called? The House of Delegates in Virginia. I think that's all up for election, and there's several seats that are seen as key seats. So we want to keep an eye on that as well. All right, let's go back here. And let me just get caught up with some other stuff. Here's New York City Mayor, but no, we don't. That's good. New York City Mayor coming up. 26 minutes till we have that. Just need to get organized. I need to get organized here.
Wow, they have Mamdani as a 94% as the race winner. Holy crap.
Also in Pennsylvania, there are 3 Supreme Court justices who they're all Democrats, and the voters have to decide whether to keep them in it for an additional term on the court. I think you vote yes or no on them. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. Do I have any of those here, races? Let me go to home here. I'm guessing I do. Pennsylvania. Oopsie. I have to find it. Pennsylvania State Superior Court? Is this it? I don't even know if this is the right one. I have to look this up.
Now check this out, happening in Virginia.
Ways on how to run, on the messaging, on lashing her opponent to Donald Trump, specifically on the issue of affordability and of cost of living and the economy, as we've been talking about so much tonight. Listen, big transition from a governor who remains popular in that state, and Governor Glenn Youngkin.
Absolutely, and you heard Leader Jeffries there lean into your question that the implications for tonight will be significant heading into the midterm elections. This is a playbook, this is a roadmap, and we should say this is also an historic moment. She becomes the first female governor of Virginia. There was going to be a woman governor regardless tonight.
That's right.
But that governor-elect is now Abigail Spanberger, and you see her there working the crowds as she approaches the podium. Let's listen in to what she has to say. Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger.
Thank you all so much. My fellow Virginians, tonight we sent a message. We sent a message to every corner of the Commonwealth, a message to our neighbors and our fellow Americans across the country. We sent a message to the whole world that in 2025, Virginia chose pragmatism over partisanship. We chose our Commonwealth over chaos. You all chose leadership that will focus relentlessly on what matters most: lowering costs, keeping our communities safe, and strengthening our economy for every Virginian. Leadership that will focus on problem solving, not stoking division. We chose leadership that will always put Virginia first. And Virginia, I cannot wait to get to work for you. Tonight we turned a page. We turned that page by listening to our neighbors, focusing on practical results, laying out a clear agenda, and leading with decency and determination. To everyone who helped us achieve this win, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. I thank you for the trust that you have placed in me, and it is the honor of my lifetime to be elected the 75th governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I would like to thank my opponent for a hard-fought race, the Lieutenant Governor's story, her military service, and her years of service here in Virginia deserve our respect and our gratitude, and I ask that you join me in wishing her and her family well. I also know that those who were supporting my opponent are disappointed today. And to those Virginians who did not vote for me, I want you to know that my goal and my intent is to serve all Virginians. And that means that I will listen to you, I will work for you and with you. That is the approach that I've taken throughout my entire career. I have worked with anyone and everyone, regardless of political party, to deliver results for the people that I serve.
Oh God, she sounds like Doug Ford.
This idea that there is so much more that unites us as Virginians and as Americans than divides us. And I know in my heart that we can unite for Virginia's future, and we can set an example for the rest of the nation. Our founders understood this from the very beginning. They didn't choose to call Virginia a Commonwealth by accident. They chose it to signify that our government would be based on the power of the people united for a common good. Not for a political party, not for a president, not for a monarch, but for a common good, together. And tonight, Virginia proved that that tradition is alive and well. We are still a Commonwealth in every sense of the word. We are built on the things we share, not the things that pull us apart. And I am proud that our campaign earned votes from Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everyone in between. That's the Virginia I know, that's the Virginia I love, and that's the Virginia I will have the honor of serving as your next governor.
Why would she talk about being a part of a Commonwealth or still being a Commonwealth when America fought for independence from the British and from being a part of like a Commonwealth? Literally the empire. Oh, no monarchs, but we're still a Commonwealth. We're very much a Commonwealth, whatever the hell she said, nation or state or whatever she was going on about. It makes no sense. Makes no sense at all, actually.
The weather, the heat, and then the cold, and then the rain, and then the sun. It's Virginia after all. Thank you. Thank you for talking to your neighbors about the importance of this race. Thank you for recognizing that when we went person to person engaging, that we could bring people not just into supporting our campaign, but into engaging in our democracy. Thank you. We won this race because of you. To our campaign team, you're the best in the country. Every single member of our team, every single one of you, you work tirelessly for the change, the progress, the policies, the connection, and the respect that you want to see in our communities. Thank you for working so hard. Thank you for giving people hope. Thank you for knocking on doors in the sweltering heat. Thank you for showing kindness. Thank you for showing up in every corner of Virginia. Thank you for diving deep on policy. Thank you for capturing moments and the essence of our campaign. Thank you for reaching voters everywhere. And thank you for believing that Virginia could and would send a hopeful and joyful message tonight. Thank you for giving everything to this campaign and then some. And thank you to my family. To my husband, Adam. My partner in everything. I love you with my whole heart. I am grateful for you. And it is very strange to declare my love for you in front of millions of people. But every adventure we have ever been on has been worth it because you have been by my side. I love you. I'm grateful for you. And I cannot wait to see what the next couple of years bring. To my daughters, Claire, Charlotte, and Catherine, you inspire me and motivate me every single day. Everything I do to build a better future for you and for all of Virginia's children, and I am so proud of you every single day. I am lucky to be your mother. And Catherine, you did not clean your room today as you promised me. She's working on it. If I was working on it, we wouldn't have won this election, okay? To my sisters, my dearest and earliest friends,
All right, while that's going
Virginians think
on,
the economy is doing well. Those are good numbers.
Yeah.
The thing is, Governor Youngkin is not running again, right? But his lieutenant governor couldn't capitalize on that popularity in really any way. In fact, her approval numbers were underwater, basically 46% in these exits here. And I think that gives you a sense of sort of the strength of Spanberger's campaign, clearly in Virginia. Still, obviously, looking to see what those margins are. I know you have some Democrats that are hoping it's like double digits, if ticking up into the 12, 13, et cetera, because they would like to see, as Leader Jeffries put it to us earlier, a rout in that state and for that to continue in these other states as well.
Because the margins matter in terms of the momentum heading into the midterms. And of course, it is notable that former President Obama campaigned with Abigail Spanberger. We did not see President Trump on the campaign trail.
He didn't even say her name. He didn't even say her name at his tele-rally last night, right? And you look at the importance of the Trump endorsement, that matters in Republican politics. The two of them, the president and Winsome Earl-Sears, had a complicated relationship dating back to 2022. And he called her a phony after she said that he was a liability to the party and then flipped on that and ended up supporting him. But things have been a little bit tricky between the two ever since, and I think you saw that play out. Because listen, this is Donald Trump's Republican Party, and if he wants to get out there and campaign in person and throw his support full-throatedly behind somebody, he will do that. I think he also has a sense from the people around him who looks good in a race and who doesn't look good. I mean, Hogan, you can probably speak to that. He doesn't love to back a loser. Nobody does.
Yeah, our table has just gotten a little bit bigger. Hogan Gidley, we are joined by you. Go ahead and weigh in. We also have Ashley Etienne and Leanne Caldwell.
Of course. Look, I think Donald Trump's endorsement matters. I think whether or not he comes to your state and actually throws that support behind you, he's so good at rallying the people around a cause or a candidate. And you've seen him do this now for the better part of a decade. So their relationship, I think you called it tricky. Was that what you called it, Hallie?
That was a semi-complicated.
Complicated.
It's a diplomatic term.
That's fine. Both of those are probably accurate.
You know how diplomatic I am, man,
That's true. And both of those are probably accurate. And so if he's not going to come out and support you, if he's not going to come out and really, really rally the troops around you, it's going to be very difficult, I think, in a lot of these races. But also, let's be clear. As we try to make a lot of this about Trump, it still matters locally how you run your race, how you comport yourself as a candidate. You're the one on the ticket.
Yeah.
So is it your ad campaign that's bad? Is it your issues that no one cares about? Is it your opponent who's better than you at debates? All these things kind of go into the mix in this big stew to figure out who's going to come out as the victor. And it's very clear that Sears just didn't have it.
Ashley, what do you make of this win tonight? Hallie talks about the margin and the fact that Democrats are clearly celebrating this win, but waiting to see what the margin is. Why does that matter so much, and what are you looking for?
Well, I mean, because it shows that the Democratic base, and we need to see the exit polling. I'm sure there was a sizable number of independents and some disaffected Republicans that formed a coalition and showed up bigger than they did for McAuliffe, bigger than they did for Kamala Harris. So the trend is that turnout for Democrats is up. But here's the one thing that I think in the exit polls that is very important is that voters said,
I believe the next polls closing are New Jersey.
that message was loud and clear. There was a rejection
I think.
of his failed economy. The other thing that I noticed from the exit polling is that the Republicans...
Or maybe it is New York. Yeah, I think it is New York, actually. Never mind.
Trans, political violence, and crime, none of that worked this time. Everyone's hyper-focused on the economy.
Actually, only because you played my music on the exit polls there on independents. Let me just tell you the answer to that, because it was super interesting. There was a significant shift in Virginia among independents swinging over to Democrats compared to 2021, right, compared to 4 years ago. Double digits. Democrats seem to pick up double digits to maybe 10, 11% based on the exit polls, more independents than they did 4 years ago. So
And this is the part that excites the party the most.
Yeah, and what we'll be watching very closely.
Yeah, the New York polls close at 9 p.m., so very, very soon.
Win, and how much can each party read into it, given that this is an off-year election? This is Virginia. Do Democrats run the risk of reading into this race?
Yeah, well, Democrats are going to read a lot into it if Democrats do really well tonight. This is obviously something that they want. You know, Spanberger was expected to win tonight. I got a text from a Republican operative who said, okay, we knew Earl Sears was bad. We didn't know that she would perform this poorly. And so that was a little bit of a shock to them. But Democrats are pointing to a couple things that I'm talking to. One in these exit polls is voters without a college degree. In 2021 in Virginia, they voted for the GOP by 19 points. And this time they voted for the GOP by just 5 points. And so those tend to be kind of swing voters that go back and forth. Those are Trump voters. And so Democrats are really excited about that vote and hope that carries in, obviously, into next year.
All right, guys, stand by for just a minute because joining us now is Senator Mark Warner, Democrat from Virginia. Senator Warner, thank you so much for being here on this election night. We appreciate it. I see this big smile.
She got super excited about that. That's kind of weird, you know. You're supposed to be unbiased as a reporter, as a news reporter, right? Yeah, these aren't actual news reporters, are they? They're supposed to be unbiased. And she's like, "Oh my God, we got Democratic senator on the line, guys! I'm so excited." Like, relax. Take it easy.
You have.
I will acknowledge, but remember, the governor, the whole Republican establishment went all in on Trump. And Virginians are saying, no, we reject that. We reject the chaos. He got elected because of affordability. He's done nothing on affordability, prices going up. And we've been kind of ground zero for his efforts to do DOGE and disrupt the federal government. So Virginians across the political spectrum, and I think you're going to see a big upturn as well for us in rural and communities as well, is really important.
Senator, the fact that one of the big questions of the night is what, if anything, will happen with the Trump coalition that we saw in 2024. And this is one data point, but in areas like Loudoun County, for example, where President Trump was able to bring out more Latino voters, more voters of color, who tonight seem to reverse and go back to Democrats. What is the significance there? And how do you hold on to them in the midterms and not lose those critical voters again?
The significance is we should acknowledge, as Democrats, we screwed up the border. But you can be for border security and not be for masked ICE agents picking up moms as they drop off their kids going to school or picking up people going to work. I mean, this is so far out of the mainstream, and Donald Trump has had this chaos theory that as long as he keeps throwing stuff at the wall, he can avoid issues that got him elected, like affordability. He's done nothing on that. Abigail ran a classic Virginia campaign. It's something we've been doing for the last 25 years, where we stick to the main issues. We don't get distracted by the issues on the extreme, and Virginians reacted to that. And remember, it's not just Abigail's great win, and she gets all the credit, but we've got 3 statewide candidates. I think we're going to sweep all 3, and we've got 100 seats in our House of Delegates. We've got a great House Speaker in Don Scott. I think he has led a brilliant campaign for the House. I think we may pick up 6 or 7, 8 seats. So with all due respect, please don't blame this on a weak Republican gubernatorial candidate. This was a strong showing for Democrats across the board.
Senator Atali, thank you for being on. To your point on that, right, because the messaging from Abigail Spanberger really also focused, as you know, on affordability, on the economy, on the cost of living. And it's interesting to me because I hear you talk about some of the ways that you see the Democratic Party pushing back on what the president's doing. But if you look at some of the exit polls, nearly half of voters in Virginia said that Donald Trump was not a factor, 46% in their vote and what they decided to do. And like more than a third of those people voted for Abigail Spanberger. Does that say to you that perhaps ahead of the midterms, the economic messaging, the affordability messaging may be more potent now than the anti-Trump messaging?
Well, I don't know how you can separate. I mean, Donald Trump got hired because he said he was going to address rising prices. Anybody been to the grocery store recently? You've seen prices go down? I absolutely believe a lot of Virginians voted on the affordability and the economy. But this is now Donald Trump's economy. You know, you can no longer blame everything on Joe Biden. He owns this. His chaotic tariff policy. I had a bunch of the farm credit folks in my office today. They're pulling their hair out. And these are people that are classic Republicans. They don't know how to deal with his inconsistency on tariffs. And I will take it whatever way you want to carve it up. Affordability, mainstream politics, not the extremes. This is kind of what Virginia has been about when we have won as Democrats, because I think, you know, we want good governance. That's what Abigail Spanberger represents. And I think she's going to have not only a sweep across the top, but she's going to have a dramatically increased House of Delegates. And a lot of credit of that goes to the Speaker, Don Scott.
Senator Warner, thank you. 10 seconds or less because I'm getting the hook. Shutdown. Is it going to end this week or what? What's up?
Listen, I'm not part of this gang. First time I've never been because I'm not sure the Republicans can get to yes without Trump. But we got to get this over. We're also bearing the brunt of that. They love us fighting back, and we got to keep fighting. But we are definitely the place where we're ground zero in terms of federal workers and others getting hurt.
All right, Senator Warner, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your perspective. We do have an update here on the other races we're watching in Virginia. NBC News can now also project that Democrat Ghazala Hashami is the winner in the lieutenant governor's race. We're also watching results out of Virginia's race for attorney general. That race is too close to call. The Democratic candidate Jay Jones has been playing defense in this race against Republican Jason Miyares after Jones apologized for violent messages he sent about Republican lawmakers back in 2022. Joining me now is NBC News reporter Gary Grumbach at Miyares' headquarters. What is the mood there? Because this is one of the races that Republicans feel as though they can hold on to. He is the incumbent candidate. How are they feeling there, Gary?
Yeah, there's a real feeling of disappointment from the folks that I've talked to here at the watch party. It's sort of dwindling. Folks are drinking, folks are eating. But yeah, this is a race that they thought they could pull out, and that is because of this big scandal with Jay Jones. But if you look at the vote, it is a very close race right now. People are not just going down the ballot and clicking all the Democrats today. That is clearly not what happened, because there's hundreds of thousands of people who did not vote for Jay Jones, but did vote for Abigail Spanberger, and that is because of the text message scandal from 2022. And there's a conversation to be had here about the implicit approval of that kind of dangerous rhetoric from the more than 1 million people that did vote for Jay Jones across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And then, of course, the larger issue here of the vetting of Democratic candidates. I spoke to DNC Chair Ken Martin this weekend. He said he understands they do need to do a better job of vetting candidates like Jay Jones, like Graham Plattner up in Maine, to see what kind of night this is going to be. It's going to be a positive night for Democrats, it looks like, across the board. But clearly there's work to do behind the scenes here, Kristen.
All right, Gary, thank you so much. We'll continue to watch that race very closely. As you say, it is too close to call at this point. And it is now just after 9 p.m. Eastern, and polls have just closed in the race for New York City mayor. The NBC Decision Desk characterizing that.
Okay, so earlier, Mamdani was at a 94%. Now he's at a 96%.
Okay. Hey, by the way, a quick thanks to we have the site I am using is this new site from Decision Desk HQ, which is a very good elections site, an elections news source. They haven't. There's this site is in beta, but they let me buy access to it, which was actually very nice of them. So I really appreciate them allowing me to check out the site and use the site. It's votes by Decision Desk HQ. So they get votes in. They do really good about they're really good about getting the totals up as soon as the votes come in. So there's nothing in yet, but the polls are closed. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this. And I think Governor-elect Spanberger just finished speaking. By the way, she just finished. Okay, so you can see here. I can prove it to you. She's finishing up in Leesburg, Virginia. So I think the lieutenant governor who lost in Virginia is going to speak to Winsome Earl Sears. So maybe we'll show you some of that. We're waiting to hear from the New Jersey governor-elect. Well, according to Decision Desk HQ, I don't know how many people have called this, but Decision Desk HQ called the New Jersey race for the Democrat Mikey Sherrill. So we're waiting to hear from Mikey Sherrill, but I know a lot of you are really paying attention and waiting to see what happens in this New York City mayor race. So we're gonna see when those first votes come in. I got to look up and see how long it takes for those votes to come in. I think I have something that says how long it takes for the votes to come in. Hold on. Give me. I was looking at something earlier. I got to take some of your comments on the air too. Sorry. Let me just real quick check up on the. Where is it here? Where is it here? here. I had something that said when those votes might come in. And we're going to talk about other races too. Oh, soon, I guess. From what I understand, the first votes will come in soon. Very soon. Very soon. So let's keep an eye on this, guys. We just got to keep an eye on this. Soon we should see votes come in, a bunch of votes. Is it the early vote? I don't know. But a lot of votes are going to appear soon, I think. Okay. But nothing on them right there right now. Hey, a quick thanks so much to AZ Intel's dad and JZ Gamer 12 and Kiwi and Sydney and Kenneth Colton for your support. Dewey 1851, Ricky Graybill, Larry Horn Dynamic Labs, also Antonio Escobar, Satoshi's limo driver, Aaron Dooley, Marin Gobra and Kiwi. I know JZ Gamer mentioned Virginia. Virginia, I think it's the House of Delegates. We're going to be talking about that election. There were a couple of statewide seats in Georgia, that went to, oh, we got votes in. Votes are in. All right, now Mamdani has 51.7%. A bunch of votes just came in. You can see it right here. Can I make this bigger? Let's see.
All right, guys, take a look at that. Already a strong start for Mamdani.
And Cuomo has 39.8%. But the question is, what type of votes are these? Are they, for example, mail-in votes? How do elections experts, people who know what they're doing and study this stuff and know what votes have come in, they could look at this and say this is good for Mamdani or good for Cuomo or bad for either. So I'm going to see if I can find any people who know something about what type of votes these are. And see if anybody is commenting on this. Decision Desk HQ has called the race. Breaking news. Decision Desk HQ has just called the race for Mamdani. Wow. Decision Desk HQ has called it for Mamdani. Look at this. I'm not joking. It's right in front of you. So they think that given what they've seen so far, Mamdani is going to be the next mayor. Wow. So we'll see if anyone else calls it. But given what they're seeing, the kind of votes that have come in and what's still out there, they're confident enough to say the projected winner is Zoran Mamdani. I mean, what?
That's wild. Literally right off the get-go, 5 minutes in. I'm going to throw a pause on this and we're going to see what's going on here.
The same day vote doesn't have to be pro-Chitterelli. It has to be really pro-Chitterelli. The same day vote in New York City doesn't just have to be pro-Cuomo. It has to be really pro-Cuomo to overcome now a 12-point deficit here. Now, again, it is interesting when you look at this. One of the things that Cuomo needed, and this was the story at the 11th hour, was that Trump weighing in, saying, hey, you got to vote for Chitterelli. The idea there was to marginalize the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa. And that number for Sliwa at 8% is lower than he was getting in the polls. You saw polls with Sliwa 15, 20% right now. He got 8%, at least in this early and mail-in portion of the voting. And again, that's why I think this, the polls were all over the place here. There was one last week that had it at 25. There was another one that had it at about 5 points. So it was all over the place, but it does look like there was some consolidation here of Sliwa slipping in this voting process and Cuomo benefiting. Not enough to catch Mamdani here. Cuomo wants that trend, though, to continue and maybe accelerate on the Election Day vote. Because remember, Trump said it only last night. So does this Sliwa vote actually go down further on Election Day Is there more consolidation in that vote? Would that provide an avenue for Cuomo to come back? But he's going to need a big, big election day.
Steve, you talk about reports of gangbusters turnout in New York, and the Board of Elections has said they now have 2 million votes in the city, which is the most since 1969. Obviously, this is a super competitive general election mayoral race, but I wonder how you see that and how that would be a factor here.
Well, no, and that's why I thought there was volatility. That was the word I kept using talking about this. When you saw polls at 5, you saw polls at 25, and you face it, we've had a bunch of interest of general elections in New York City that are pretty low interest blowouts lately.
This is not low interest, pal.
Exactly. and the extra piece of volatility, and I can't wait to dive into the neighborhoods when we can do that, because the thing that makes that so volatile is this. The cutoff line, and we see this in the exit poll, is about 45 years of age. Voters over 45 are a pro-Cuomo demographic. We see him winning those voters. Voters under 45, Cuomo falls off an absolute cliff. And especially when you get under 30, he's being trounced, lapped 3 times by Mondani. So the question becomes, critically, what's the median age of this electorate? Is one group turning out more than the other? Cuomo's hope today is that older voters in New York City, older voters in the outer boroughs, flooded the polls, are anti-Mamdani, decided Curtis Leawood didn't have a chance, and rallied behind Andrew Cuomo in massive, as you would say, record-shattering numbers. That would be his hope, because he doesn't just need big turnout. He needs the turnout to be disproportionately older, because Mamdani is clear. I mean, you see these in the polls. We've seen age divides before. I gasp every time I see it in New York City. It's off the charts.
Steve, if you can you break down what we're seeing in the boroughs? And we don't have Staten Island yet.
Yeah, let's take a look here. Yes, we don't now, and that is actually Kristen. That's a very important point here. Staten Island is the most conservative. It's smallest by far. It's the smallest of the boroughs, but it's the most conservative, and you can expect this to be a Cuomo jurisdiction tonight. But let's take a look here in Manhattan. And Mamdani Mamdani leading here by 8 points, about 40% of the vote counted. Cuomo, I think, was hoping to do very well. Upper West Side, maybe Upper East Side in particular, Cuomo was hoping to do particularly well. Bronx, I want to see, because this is interesting. We got about a quarter of the vote in the Bronx. Cuomo's folks have been hoping to do well here. Turnout, the question also was going to be maybe lower here. I think we're certainly seeing that, 28%. Take a look at Queens. If Cuomo's going to have a chance tonight, he's going to want to win Queens. Queens is where his family is from originally. His father, who ran for mayor a few decades ago, was the governor like his son. But you can see that's Queens. Now take a look over in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn is sort of the epicenter of Mondani's movement here. Again, we talk about that age divide here. You know, neighborhoods in Brooklyn, there are some of them on the waterfront. This is the East River right here. There are some of them in Queens, but there's a lot in Brooklyn, you know, with a lot of younger voters, college-educated voters, sort of progressive, very politically engaged voters who've sort of been the backbone of this Mamdani effort. And so he's running up the score most here in Brooklyn. And again, yes, Staten Island is gray. It's great because it's Cuomo.
There you go.
It makes sense. I'm looking at it like you are, saying, why isn't Staten Island on there? Oh, man, that's it. Well, we chose a very confusing color here to use. Okay. That makes so much more. I'm trying to figure this out in my head as we go through it. Why would Staten Island not report with the entire city? It did report Cuomo's winning it. Lee was in second place here. I mean, this is the most Republican-friendly by far. So, again, that actually clarifies the picture again. We're not waiting on a piece of the mail and the early vote that would make this closer. We have the mail vote. We have the early vote, most of the mail vote. We have the early vote, and this is the gap that Andrew Cuomo is looking at. And, you know, again, this is okay. We've got some same-day report now, and I'm going to ask my producer's going to keep tabs on this. Now that we have the benchmark of that early vote, what clip is Cuomo winning, or what is he getting as the same day comes in? Because he's got to win it. He's got to win it by double digits. That would give him a chance here against Mamdani.
All right, Steve, if you get any.
New York City hits 2 million votes, highest turnout since 1969. It looks like New Jersey's polls are set to... I'm confused. Are New Jersey's polls closing in 2 hours, or is there somewhere else that's closing in 2 hours?
More votes to come in. Mamdani has this early lead, but too early to call right now. The mood at the campaign, how are they feeling, particularly given that President Trump had that overnight endorsement of Andrew Cuomo?
The mood right now, Kristen, is upbeat. It's optimistic. You don't see this entire room filled behind you, though it's starting to get that way for the simple fact that polls didn't close until 9 o'clock. To Steve's point a second ago about that vote line right around the age of 45 and what was it consisted of in the early vote, the median age for the early vote was 51, which theoretically would trend toward Cuomo, and yet that big dump still showed about an 11 or 12% advantage for Mamdani, although I know it's tightened a little bit since then. I'm going to hit you with a couple of other data points, and it's important to note this comes before President Trump's endorsement of Andrew Cuomo at the 11th hour, or like at the 6 or 7 o'clock hour last night, which is that when you dig into a lot of these polls, they show incredible enthusiasm for Zohran Mamdani. I'm thinking of the Quinnipiac poll right now. The voters were asked, how enthusiastic, excited are you about the candidate? More than 90% were enthusiastic about Mamdani. Under 70% were enthusiastic about Cuomo. For favorability, Mamdani was about a +5, +10. Cuomo was underwater at a -20. If I gave you all that information, Kristen, and then I told you that the New York City Board of Elections just reported 2 million votes cast so far in this, which is a figure that has not been seen in a mayoral race since the 1960s, when like 80-some-odd% of people were actually going out to vote. So it's virtually unprecedented in modern times. And all the energy appeared to be more so on one side of the equation, in this case, Zohran Mamdani. You would think that would be a good night for the campaign. We'll wait and we'll see. One thing, though, that is clear, you and Hallie have been talking about this all night, some of these exit polls showing that New Yorkers, specifically describing the cost of living and housing, 72% said that housing and the cost of it is a major problem for them. That speaks directly to the vein of the Mamdani campaign that really singled in a real tangible form, right? Whether it's talking to cab drivers in the middle of the night, those that are manning halal carts on why they pay thousands of dollars when they should be paying hundreds just for the right to sell food, talking to working class families, really is keyed in on the idea that housing and healthcare is way too expensive. Childcare has been one of his big initiatives, universal childcare, which would cost, by the way, somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 billion. But for those worried that your taxes are going to go up and this is going to cause wealthy New Yorkers to just leave New York City as we know it, I think there's some important context to deliver. To be able to generate that kind of money, Mr. Mamdani has talked about raising taxes on millionaires 2% and also making the New York City corporate tax rate match New Jersey's. That requires, Kristen, an action from the state legislature. He can't do it unilaterally. So it's really important as we have a conversation about what it means to be a democratic socialist, wealth redistribution, even as we have conversations with folks who say they're just stunned by the level of discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots in New York City. And it's an issue that clearly has resonated with Americans across the country. Mamdani cannot come in assuming he wins on day one and just change the tax rates in New York City. It's impossible. I would also add to you, and you haven't really discussed it much tonight that I've heard so far, a big part of his appeal here in New York has been sort of the empathy he's described toward the Palestinian solidarity movement. You are talking about a city that has more than 1 million Muslims thereabout, about 1 million plus Jewish Americans too, right? These are massive populations fractured on what's going on abroad. Mamdani has come in with extremely strong language toward Israel, calling what has been enacted there by the Israeli government genocide in his words, and refusing to acknowledge Israel as a Jewish state, which has been described as anti-Zionism, but he has also been extremely emphatic that he wants to combat anti-Semitism by any means necessary. This is such a delicate issue, and it really has permeated communities all over New York City. So I would say if the umbrella of his campaign is affordability and reaching people where they are, the idea of PEP, Progressive Accept Palestine, has really struck a nerve here in New York, and it's almost the soul of what he's doing. Those two things are what I would be keeping an eye on in the days ahead. But right now, there is obviously a ton of optimism here that Mr. Mamdani is going to be the next mayor of New York City.
And Sam, quickly before I go to Rahima, that has been a thorny issue for him. He's had to answer a number of questions, in some instances had to clarify some of his remarks as it relates to what's happening in the Middle East, right?
I'm so sorry, Kristen. I think you're asking about clarifying remarks. It's been a little bit loud here. I will say that at one point, Mr. Mamdani received a lot of criticism for condoning use of the phrase globalize the intifada, which for many Jews is a call to violence against the Jewish community. He said he's had conversations with rabbis and
All right, and while that's going on, we're going to head back over here. And I am going to go grab some water. I will be right back.
Oh, I also read about a couple of races in Georgia, these Georgia state office races. Let's see if I can mention that. Hold on. Yeah, 2 seats got flipped on the Georgia Public Service Commission, according to Decision Desk HQ. 2 Democratic candidates won their races on the Georgia Public Service Commission. And I guess that's not something that normally, I saw some analysts saying they thought that was a big deal. Let me see if I can get you a quote from one of them here. If I go to home, can I find Georgia Public Service Commissioner? There's one race. You can see Alicia Johnson won that seat over incumbent Tim Echols. That's one of them. And then the other one was this Georgia Public Service Commissioner, where a Democrat, Peter Hubbard, has 60% right now. Fitz Johnson has 39.1%. Hang on. And then I saw something about this. Where did I see about this? But I saw a couple analysts saying they were surprised that a couple Democrats won these statewide races in Georgia. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? I saw it before. Chris Cooper, who is a political science professor at Western Carolina University, he said it's a rare example of Democrats holding statewide elected offices in the South outside of North Carolina and Virginia. Let's go back to the mayor in New York City. Oh, some more votes came in, guys. So right now, Mamdani is leading by 9% in New York City. Something to keep an eye on, though. Look down here. Look at this. I'll pull it up for you here. Look at the county. So you can see Richmond County is Staten Island, and Cuomo is up big there. But Richmond County, you can see 57% of the votes have been reported there, which is the most of any county. So Cuomo, it's like Cuomo is doing well there, but those votes are those Staten Island votes are not going to, I guess the thinking is they're not going to balance out the other counties. Now, I don't know about within the counties. There might be certain areas that favor certain candidates too. But I just want to point out that Staten Island is 57.2% counted.
Well, it looks like that's pretty much it. I'm not going to call it yet. I'm going to wait till probably 10 p.m. or whenever Agenda Free TV ends his stream. That's probably when I'll call it. But for now, it looks like Mamdani is ahead by at least 9% roughly.
They have a bit different number than Roughly half of the votes are in the New York City mayor race. Oh, you know what I didn't do? There it is. Why doesn't it say here? I'm confused. Let me refresh this. I feel like normally it would say this many votes are in. Oh, more votes came in. More votes are in now. Look. Over 1.1 million votes are in. Mamdani is leading by 8.1%. I think some of this site might. This is like a beta. This site is in beta version, this Decision Desk HQ site. So some of it I think is working better than others. I think. Or maybe it's possible I'm using it wrong. But you can see there, over 50% of the vote is in. It looks like the estimate, it looks like maybe a little over 2 million votes maybe are going to be total in New York City. The other thing, I wish I could kind of, yeah, I can make this a little bigger too. Nope, not there. We'll make this a little bigger. There we go. A little bigger for you. I don't know if I should do that. That's weird. I'm going to do that right there. We'll just keep the focus on the top three there. So, yeah, New York Daily News said more than 2 million people voted. That's the highest number of votes in New York City mayoral race since at least 1969.
Because speaking of, you are getting more vote coming into New York. What can you tell us?
Yeah,
And
New York
Jersey.
and New Jersey. We got a lot of flying here at once, but we've been saying New Jersey. Look, the story is Chitterelli needs to have this huge same day. So we're getting close now to complete in some counties, and I want to show you Monmouth County. We just set this one up a few minutes ago. This is a big county, and this should be a core Republican county. Now, 90% of the vote is in. Jack Chitterelli is going to win Monmouth County. Yeah, he didn't win it by enough.
Okay, and we do have NBC News can project now that Mikey Sherrill is the projected winner of New Jersey, the governor-elect of New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill, who ran on a message of affordability of the economy, promising to lower property taxes against Jack Chitterelli. This is his third time running for governor. He was endorsed by President Trump, but in this case, it did not make enough of a difference. Steve Kornacki, let me go back to you very quickly before I go to the panel. What are you seeing? How did Mikey Sherrill pull off this win?
Yeah, look, I mean, Democrats, they were excited about how they did in the early voting, and that certainly held up. And, you know, again, the same day is just, I was put this up a minute ago, but at 9 points, you know, Republicans want this to be a 20-point county, maybe even more than a 20-point county. So Sherrill certainly doing well relative for how you'd expect Democrats to do here. You know, we just, Bergen County, we're still waiting a bit on. But she is overperforming everywhere that we've got results. Okay, Gloucester County, this is another one. We set this one up a little while ago. Sherrill continues to lead in Gloucester County. Now, more than 80% of the vote is in Gloucester County. This was where we had, you know, we said in 2021, there was a red wave in New Jersey, and it started in Gloucester County. Chitterelli won it by double digits. He may not even get to 500. He may not even win it tonight. So again, Sherrill outperforming certainly how Democrats, how Phil Murphy had done in 2021 there. So we're just seeing this throughout New Jersey. It's adding up not just to a Sherrill win, it's adding up to what looks like to be a very solid Sherrill win here on top of what we saw out of Virginia for Abigail Spanberger there. And I just wanted to go over to New York City because, again, this is where things are really, if I'm a little discombobulated, it's because I'm trying to juggle what's happening here right now. Now, look how quick this has happened. Remember, we got the early vote in New York City, and that took us to just under 40%. This is same-day vote that's come in since then. It's taken it up to 60% of the vote. Now, remember, Cuomo trailed by about 12 points in that early vote. You can see that margin has come down. it's down to 8 points here. So we said Cuomo needs to have a big when they count up the vote that was cast today, which is what they're doing right now, which is what most of this remaining vote is. He's got to do big. Now, the number's been jumping around, but we're keeping a close eye on it. Right before I came on, the most recent number we had was Cuomo was winning the same-day vote, 46 to 45%. Now, if he's going to actually catch Mamdani, it's got to be a bigger spread than that. It's probably got to be about an 8-10-point spread for Cuomo. So he's not currently trending at the level he needs to. He'd have to pick that up. But it is enough here for him to pull us within 8 points. That's 60%. And again, Sliwa, we talked about those voters kind of abandoning him for Cuomo. Clearly, that is something that happened here in New York City.
Okay, well, it's getting more dynamic in New York City. Steve, stand by. We're going to check back in with you in just a moment. I do want to head out to Stephanie Gosk. She is at Mikey Sherrill's headquarters in New Brunswick, where, Steph, the celebrations have begun. We can hear them behind you, waiting now for the candidate, the governor-elect, to come out and deliver her victory speech.
Yeah, well, that should be happening probably pretty soon. You know, it's interesting, Kristen, because some people are saying that this race was going to be really tight, that it could be going into the wee hours of the morning, and it is not even 9:30 yet, and we have a winner. That sounds like a demonstrative win. People in this room are realizing that right now. The feeling here is electric, and at this point, when you look at those numbers, you have to start wondering whether that referendum on Donald Trump that Mikey Sherrill was trying to have in this election, attaching her competitor to Donald Trump, whether that has worked. And if it has worked, whether there might be some way to extrapolate that out so that this result tonight is the bellwether that some people thought it might be as you look forward to the midterm elections. I don't want to overstate it, and I know it's too soon to make that kind of analysis completely, but people in this room are starting to talk about that, and you can really feel the energy and the excitement for what's happened here in New Jersey today.
All right, Stephanie Gosk, thank you so much for that. We'll come back to you when she takes the podium and delivers her acceptance speech. We really appreciate it. But joining me now is former Republican governor of New Jersey, Christine Todd Whitman, who has endorsed Mikey Sherrill. Governor, thank you for joining me. Your reaction to the big news we just called this race.
I am delighted. It's been a great night for women across the board, in Virginia as well, and several other races.
All right, so while they're talking about that, we are going to head over to
number of outlets.
This right here.
A number of outlets have just called the New Jersey governor race. NBC News, in addition to MSNBC, have called the New Jersey governor race as well. CBS News just called the New Jersey governor race for Mikey Sherrill, Democrat. So she will probably be speaking soon. As we watch the votes come in New York City. Oh, I was going to mention the Virginia House as well. I'll get into that shortly. Oh, I'm sure he'll be speaking tonight. I wonder, I'm guessing Cuomo will speak too, but I'm sure Mamdani will be speaking. We will have that live for you. We will have it live. Oh, Curtis Sliwa is speaking. Hey guys, Curtis Sliwa is speaking, the Republican candidate for mayor. Hold on. Let me put this on. Let me put it on for you right now. Wait one moment. There he is. There's Curtis Sliwa. Where's the volume?
We will continue our mission. We're not leaving to Florida or Georgia or North Carolina or South Carolina, Texas or Tennessee. We stay, we fight for what we know is right. We improve, we don't move. This movement continues on in the subways, in the streets, in the neighborhoods, where all of you, the people, are from. And we will continue to fight, 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 fight. And tonight, those people who think they're powerful and think we're powerless will understand that the people have spoken. One person, one vote. And now we will hold the mayor-elect to make sure that he serves all the people and that socialism does not replace capitalism. Law and order must be imposed to keep our city safe and secure. We want everybody to know if you're young or old, you can stay in New York, you can prosper, you can live the American dream. I swear to all of you, on behalf of my wife Nancy, myself, and everybody who made this effort possible, we will continue on. They have not stopped us. They have not silenced our voices. We will prevail in honor of our parents and grandparents. The tradition of America will grow and prevail and prosper, and it will be we the people who will be successful. I want to thank my campaign team that has been magnificent, comprised of millennials and Gen Zers. James Perone, who's been our campaign manager. Outstanding. Some of the young men and women who are part of our social networking team, which, as you can see, has really put our message forward. I want to thank Rob Cole, who's been our senior campaign organizer. I want to thank the chairman and chairwomen of the 5 counties of New York City, the Republican leaders who stood by my side and did not bend or bow to the pressure that was coming from up high. And I hope by tonight's tally, we will see a number of our Republicans down ballot who are elected into office to be the checks and balances to the Democrats who are the majority. And I really hope that people...
I have to cut in here. NBC News has now projected Zohran Mamdani as the winner of the mayoral race. So NBC News just made their prediction, and MSNBC, both of them, are calling the mayoral race for Zohran Mamdani. Remember, Decision Desk HQ called this very early on, this race. But now NBC News is projecting it as well. They just called it for Mamdani. As you can see on your screen, with roughly 3/4 of the expected vote in, he is still up by 8.7%. He is at over 50%, Mamdani. So we'll see if other projections come in. But again, NBC News has just projected Zohran Mamdani as the next mayor of New York City.
Yeah, it looks like Cuomo's going to have to make up a lot of ground if he is to catch Mamdani at this point, and I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. It looks like potentially 60% or more of the vote has been counted.
To some extent, an earthquake, what he has just pulled off. He's a democratic socialist. He has promised a range of socialist policies that Andrew Cuomo says are completely unrealistic, but he convinced New York voters that he was the right person for this job at age 34.
A year ago, were you talking about Zohran Mamdani?
No.
Nobody was, right? I mean, this is somebody who came onto the scene. Obviously, he was somebody who was known to locals there in the area. Yeah. It is an incredible story. Now the mayor of the biggest city in the country, you know, 8 million plus people here. And so it is a night to take that in. I'm so curious to see the reaction from campaign headquarters. I'm sure he will come out and be speaking at some point tonight, and we'll be listening into that. The other sort of interesting piece to this here, too, and there's so much to say, right, about the nuances of New York City in particular, about his laser focus to the point that it kind of became a meme, right, on affordability, on the cost of living, pivoting every question to talk about this and how critical this was for New Yorkers and how that resonated with so many people, obviously in New York. and so many people who had some concerns, as Steve has just laid out here, who did not back Mamdani here, despite the fact that he is, of course, the projected mayor. The other interesting component to this, and obviously we're you know, a national political journalist hat on here, but Donald Trump, President Trump, now has a foil.
Yes, he does.
In Mayor-elect Mamdani here, to the degree that Mamdani has talked about, you know, looking to find areas where he can work together with them, but not so much, right? I mean, that's not, this is not an Andrew Cuomo situation here. So I think that's another interesting dynamic to watch. And the generation, the age gap piece of it. I mean, if Steve Kornacki tells you he gasps when he sees a statistic, like then you know that that's really attention getting. And that's been so striking anecdotally in the data to see the way the young people have turned out for him. A really sort of generational candidate here, Kristen.
And I think, Leanne, Democrats are scratching their heads and will try to figure out what exactly this all means. But what lessons do they take from a Zoran Mamdani victory and an Abigail Spanberger victory? Both messages on affordability, but two very different approaches. And to Hallie's point, President Trump getting ready to wrap the entire Democratic Party around Zoran Mamdani. It's one of the reasons, arguably, that Democrats were a little bit jittery about a potential Mamdani.
Yeah, Chuck Schumer still has not endorsed
Schumer mystery here.
Mamdani. He put out a statement tonight saying that this is proof that Trump's policies are not working, that people care about affordability, but he still did not mention Mamdani in that statement. But Democrats, the takeaway is that cost is the #1 issue that Democrats have to focus on moving forward. And you have to know your district, regardless of who you're talking to. Mamdani is talking to very liberal New York City. Mickey Sherrill's talking to New Jersey, and Abigail Spanberger to more rural Virginia with the D.C. suburbs, of course.
Yeah, Ashley, weigh in here, because to that point, Zoran Mamdani knew his constituents, his audience. He also, not just in terms of messaging, but strategy. He found new ways to reach out to voters on social media.
I mean, he was at the clubs last night at midnight.
Well, it looks like it's escape from New York, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for people who live there to get the hell out if they have the opportunity, because it's going to get real bad real quick. Oh my goodness. I think that is going to do it for this live stream, ladies and gentlemen. It's been quite the live stream. I don't think Cuomo is going to make some historical comeback here, but if he does, it won't be on the live stream. Anyway, that is going to do it for the Mamdani communist Castro Stalin grocery stores incoming, free buses, free everything apparently. If you're living in New York, everything is going to be free when you're living under Mamdani. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me, though. Have a great rest of your day or night, depending on where you are from. Adios, everybody. Take it easy. Look at this freeze frame. What a great freeze frame.
Yes. You know, rocking out. Like, I mean, he gets it. He meets people where they are. And we've not seen that since Obama, you know, in a real sort of authentic way. And that's, you could tell that's who he is. But I'm sorry, your question.